Hey, happy Friday, everybody. We are back. Great to be here. Great to see you guys. Thank you for joining me today. Today, guys, we're going to check out the hearing we didn't get to see yesterday and talk about it as well. And whatever else happens. Obviously, we're going to be getting into some other stuff as well. There's not enough time, too much time in there just to cover that. So thank you guys for joining me today. I am grateful for you all, and I can't wait to get into this. So let's get this show on the road. What do you say? Sounds like a plan to me. Let's do this. Hey. What's going on, everybody? Hi. Good to see you. Good to be here. Thank you for joining me again today. Like I said, guys, we're going to check out the actual video of the court appearance. You did it again. Damn it. Damn it. Little tiny heart attack there, folks. Anyway, hello, Mama Bear. How are you?
I'm good.
Never
Better
fails. Always. Pleasure. I like your writing. What script is that?
I don't know. Whatever I have in Discord. I just copied
Cool. Looks good. I like that. Anyway, well, Mama Bear is joining us, as you see now. We're just going to check out the hearing, the visual aspect of the hearing today, since we didn't get to see it yesterday. Sorry, I couldn't hang any longer. I don't know exactly when it came out, you guys, but it did. I was burnt out yesterday at that point. So we're going to talk about it a little bit, and whatever else we talk about, we're going to talk about. It is what it is. So thank you for joining me today. I appreciate you guys so very much, as always. And Mama Bear's got days off, so she's here with us.
Yay!
That's right. Good morning, Mama Bear. So happy you're here. I am too, even though she scares the shit out of me when she does it.
Do it on purpose.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. She does it on
Hey,
purpose.
everybody.
I think they all heard you whisper that, just so you know.
Mm-hmm.
To be or not to be. Is that how he did it? I don't know. I don't even know what the hell I'm doing. That's my obsidian skull that my daughter got me a couple years ago. It's 100. This thing's like, whoosh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Looks like it's heavy.
It's very heavy.
I showed you
probably
my
take.
paper one, right? I think I did.
And I saw one of the plastic ones you made that little project. I got this one too. I like skulls. Actually, we both like skulls very much. There's three of us in here that love skulls. I don't know what it is, but Molly likes them. Mama Bear loves them. I love them. Mama Bear puts them together in her spare time. So
Yep.
that's made out of paper.
Mhm.
Kind of blurry. It's hard to see, but Jesus, did you make that?
Yep. All the teeth.
Did you fold all of that?
Yep.
Holy
And
shit.
glued it together, strip by strip.
How long did that take?
A while.
I've seen the
Yeah.
plastic like model type ones, but
Mhm.
I've never. That's insane. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think it's upstairs. There's my Halloween cat.
You made that
It's
too?
paper. Mhm. It's paper.
You're pretty good at that stuff. Is that considered what's that called? Origami?
I don't.
Origami?
Not quite. I don't know what you'd call it.
Oh, gotcha.
Paper sculptures, as far as I know.
Okay. I'm gonna have to swear at somebody here in a second.
Uh-oh.
Walt Harris. Dude, don't even go there. Don't get me going.
Oh, here we go with food
Unless you're
again.
gonna be bringing them to me right now, we're not gonna talk about it, Walt. White House Farms Donuts. I think I've told you guys about this place before. They make the best donuts I've ever had in my entire 48-year-old life. They make them fresh every day. They have a blueberry donut that I would probably commit a crime for. They're amazing. So yes, Walt, I've had them. They make them always. They're always good. They're always good. Damn. So now, now I'm gonna have to go to Canfield and pick up some donuts. Damn it. I'm not. I'm trying to keep the weight down, bro. You're not helping me here. These things they're so good. They are so good, you guys. I'm not kidding. Like, if you've ever had a cake donut before, okay, they. This is so hard to describe. First of all, they make the dough or the batter, okay, with the blueberries in it, and then they deep fry the donuts. And on the bottom of the donut, the ring on the bottom, it's like got a little tiny bit of a crisp to it. When you get these donuts, a lot of times they're kind of warm if you go there, by the way, okay? And then they put this icing that they make for the different flavors they have, but for the blueberry one, they put a blueberry icing on top of it. Oh my god, you guys! They have a strawberry, they have a cherry, they have a pumpkin spice, which I wasn't a fan of. They have a banana nut donut. Dunkin' Donuts is a joke compared to this place. I've never had anything this good in my life. The only thing close to it is up in Geneva. For those of you that are in Ohio here, place called Geneva on the Lake. They have a place, I can't think of it, but they make homemade glazed donuts that come out hot when you get them, and they're to die for again. So thank you, Walt, for starting off the day with food, my friend. No, they are good though. They are very,
And
very.
he's diabetic. He should not be having donuts to begin
No, I
with.
shouldn't. I shouldn't at all. At all, but that's okay. We can talk about it. We can talk about it. That's all right. Thank you, Walt. But they are amazing. They are absolutely amazing. If anybody that's in Ohio, anywhere near me, go to Canfield and get White House Farms donuts, guys. If you come this direction, you got to do it. I'm telling
Oh,
you.
Sherry.
You make homemade donuts. I can't. You guys don't like me, do you? Oh, Miss Sherry, Miss Sherry. Anyway, real quick here, let's see who we have here today that are trying to make me suffer over. I love donuts too. I do love donuts, guys.
I do too.
I should have been a, a, Mr. Policeman because I love my donuts and I love my coffee. Every day is Halloween. My favorite one right there. So it looks like William Tardy's in the house. Welcome back, buddy. What's going on? Miss SRB, thank you for joining us. Eve Lucky, welcome back. Good to see you. Bonnie M, what's going on? Rita Boston's is back in the house again. Good to see you, dear. Peaches 81, welcome back. Great to see you. Miss Brandy B. Homemade rock. You guys are killing me. Jesus. Lindsay, good to see you. Violet, welcome back. Great to have you. Daisy Dead's in the house. Welcome back. Of course, the lovely Miss Sherry, the donut maker. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us today. Let me see. Who do we have here? You guys are killing me, Lindsay. We're gonna fight in a minute. Let's see. One made nut. What's going on, Eddie? Good to see you, brother. Good to have you here. The lovely Canadian cat ladies in the house. I hope you're feeling better, my dear. Please let us know how you're doing. Thank you for joining us. Walt Harris, again, thank you for joining us, brother. Good to see you. Virginia Wolf in the house. What's up, bro? Good to see you today. Molly Drake. Good golly, Miss Molly's in the house, guys. Krispy Kremes, get out of my house. No way. What's going on, Rock Chalk? Good to see you, dear. Thank you for joining us. Katie Quarters in the house as well. Welcome back. Good to see you, Michigan girl. What's up, neighbor? Good to see you. Vix Logic, welcome back. Good to see you, dear. Good to have you here. Charlotte Gross, welcome back. Good to have you here. It's all good, Walt. It's all good. Dana Renee, good to see you. Good to have you. Me too, Daisy. Love blueberry stuff. Anything. T, welcome back. Good to see you. Tina B as well. Good to see you. Doodlebugs in the house. What's going on, Doodle? Good to see you today. Thank you for joining us. Salty Sleuth, there she is. What's going on, darling? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us today. Kells is in the house too. Good to see you. Deborah Thompson, thank you for joining us again today. Great to see you. Red, what's going on, bro? Good to have you here. Good to see you. Am I getting everyone? Oh, check that out, everybody. Social Glow is back in the house. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us and being here today. I appreciate you. Miss Jessica Santiago, welcome back. Great to have you here. Good to see you. Looks like Daisy Dead's been a member for 6 months, guys. That's awesome, Daisy. Thank you for being part of this family. We do appreciate you so very much. I think it's actually been longer than 6 months, I'll be honest with you. So again, well, congrats on that, and thank you for being here. Ray Baldock, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Strutter 614 is a new member of the sauce as well. Good to see you. Good to have you here. All right. Let me see here. Nellie M, thank you for joining us. Good to see you. That's right. Where'd it go? If you would, please hit that like button on your way in the door. Leave a little DNA for us in there so that we can come find you when we need you, guys. All right. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything that we do anytime we do it. I appreciate that so very much. William Tardy, 3 months. Now that's a meatball. Good stuff, brother. Good stuff. Good to have you here. Good to see you. Thank you for being here in this family with us. And again, welcome to all the new meatballs that we gained yesterday. We gained 37 members yesterday. I thought that was very awesome. Latrell Hill, what's going on, neighbor? Coming out of Youngstown, Ohio. Thank you for joining us. How about you, Latrell? You ever had donuts from White House Farms up in Canfield up there? You're not too far from there. Walt Harris asked if I'd ever had White House Farms donuts. Unbelievable. Miss Josie's in the house. Good to see you, dear. Thank you for joining us. White House Farms. They are amazing. Jesus, I may have to send some of these to somebody. Kyla Delilah, good to see you. She said, yes, sir. God, they're good. Especially the blueberry. All the time. See, I can't eat them like that. Can't do it. I'll be laying on the floor in a ball. If I could eat them the way I want to, I'd eat a dozen by myself. They're that good. They taste that good too. Allergic to lavender. That's gotta suck. Blueberry top tier. See, there it is. That ain't no lie. Like I said, they're fresh, and some of them are still warm when you get them, depending on when you're there, and you get that little crispiness on the bottom of the cake donut when you bite it. Good, and they're so moist. They're just amazing. Rita Boston, what's going on? Good to see you. Swedish meatballs. Hey, we could do that. Those aren't bad. I like them. The food thing. Aaron, welcome. Good to see you. No school today, so I can chat. Always here listening, not always in chat. No worries. Thank you for joining us, Aaron. I appreciate it. Reverend Cynthia, good to see you. Amethyst North, thank you for joining us today. Appreciate you. Oh, no. I can think about our donuts now. Thank you, Walt Harris. Infinitely longer. All right. Student Girl, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Entenmann's. Those are pretty good too. I just like the Entenmann's plain ones. Those are good. I'm one of those weirdos that likes plain donuts. I just think with coffee, they're amazing. Ms. Riley Nicole's in the house. Good to see you. Dory kept on swimming and she's here. Good to see you, Dory. Thanks for joining us. And looks like CR gifted 5 memberships to, looks like Miss Erin got one, Lindsay T, Bonnie M, and Opinionated. Thank you so very much for that, CR. That's awesome. We got one going on here too, Josie. It's like 80 degrees here today. It's crazy. I almost turned the air back on. I was sweating earlier. It's kind of crappy. I just opened up all the windows, turned the fans on. Right. Again, thank you for that, CR, and welcome to all the new meatballs. We appreciate that so very much. Bonnie was a witch hunter in another life. That is so awesome. Interesting. I think I was a vampire. I think the pretzels at Sonic taste like a donut without sugar. Oh, nope, not doing it. What's up with there only being 54 likes in here and over 100 peeps? What is going on, guys? Come on. You afraid to share that DNA? Let's do this. We got to make a match, folks. We got to get up in the algorithm. That's what YouTube wants from us, and we got to do it. Nothing half-assed. Good to see you, SRB. Thank you for joining us. Yeah. I'm sorry, Molly's got snow. Molly's got snow, and it's 20 degrees already. Don't Nope. Don't be talking about that, Latrell. We're not going to talk about that. Can't do it. 15 and on. Damn. Sorry for you guys that are going through winter weather already. We're not talking about that, Latrell. Lisa Wilson, good to see you. Oh, what's up, Jesse Lynn? Good to see you. You wanted to vent. All right. Do your thing. Yeah, you can keep your snow, Molly. It started already, and it'll snow all the way through May or June and where Molly lives. Katie Quarters, good to see you. Micro Blue, welcome. What's up? Good to see you. $40 degrees in Kansas. Today, 85 yesterday. Sounds like our bipolar weather here in Ohio. Literally, it could snow one day and be 90 degrees the next. That's Ohio weather for you. 86. Of course that is. Of course it is down in Florida. You were taught to share? Yeah, you can keep. You don't need to share that. Rainy, nasty day in Columbus. Really? Well, you can keep that because it's beautiful here, Strutter. That's weird. We're only 6 hours apart. Not even. Seattle's always rainy. I agree, Daisy. There's no way. No way. They have nighttime 6 months a year or something like that. I couldn't handle that. I'd have to see the daylight sometime. It's true. Unfortunately, 73 degrees Ohio weather all 4 seasons in 1 week. Yes, it's happened. It has happened. She's not lying, folks. It's crazy here. But I call it our Mother Nature is bipolar. That's partially it. Yes, Josie. Kyla says it's freezing over there. I bet it is. Gloomy here on the western side of it. You must be over there near Columbus. That's right. Excuse me. Hutchinson here. What's up, Aaron? No way I could live in a lab. I like the snow. You know, I like that, but it would get old. We have the best foliage. Can't beat a northeast fall. We have the absolute best falls, I think. We do. The leaves are gorgeous. The weather, the air, I just love it. Love it, love it, love it. It's 73 in Indiana. Yeah, we have about the same thing we got going on. Miss Brady, Ohio weather's always been like that. If you don't like Ohio weather, wait 5 minutes. That's right. I don't see Miss Carolyn yet. I'm sure she'll be here. Groot, what's up? What's going on? Thank you guys for all being here and joining us today. I do appreciate you guys so very much. Raining since last night. Good Lord. Southern Ohio. What's up? Kate Pruitt, thank you for joining us. 58 in Stillwater. Yes, I love fall. I absolutely love fall. I'm sorry, Reverend. Cold and snowy. Andy Kane, what's going on? Valerie Hope, what's going on? Hope you're not working too hard. Good to see you. 146 people with 70 likes. We're almost there, guys. Almost there. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. Misty Jane, good to see you. Happy Friday to you. Thank you for joining us today. That's awesome. Hey, hey. Can't wait to see that movie. North Carolina Mountain Man, what's going on, brother? Good to see you. Gaya de Gucci, thank you for that. And good to see you as well. It will snow now till April. Probably. You're absolutely right. Steve W., thank you for joining us. Lows dropping into the low 20s this week in South Dakota. I'll bet it is. We're supposed to get crappy weather next week, I heard. Excuse me. Michigan, they're kind of bipolar too. 39 degrees and cloudy in Minnesota, Jesse Lynn says. I bet. I already hear that. Trying to get a 15-year-old dog to go outside. Yeah. Oscar used to be like that. If it was raining or snowing, he'd go to the door, he'd look out, and he'd stop. We'd have to drag him out there. It was not cool. Not cool at all. Miss Josie, dropping 5 memberships today. Thank you, Josie, for that. DS was gifted a membership. Just saying, gifted. I Hear Circus Music was gifted. Dara Johnson and Amanda Smith. Thank you, Josie. That's so awesome of you. I appreciate that so very much. Party of 5, welcome. Good to see you. But thank you again, Miss Josie. You rock and roll. I appreciate that. Welcome to the new members, the new meatballs, and thank you for jumping in the sauce with us as we spill some today. We got 10 new members already today. That is awesome. It looks like Sarah Sweetness. Welcome, Sarah Sweetness. Thank you for joining us today. Misty Jane, good to see you. I know some of you guys, I've doubled up on your names. My memory is crap. Ashley Nicolette, thank you for joining us. Good to see you. My short-term memory, I should say. Again, Josie, thank you for that, my dear. I appreciate that very much. And welcome to the new peeps. Ashley 421, welcome from Ontario, Canada. 66 degrees and warm, she says. That's awesome. 360 Life, welcome from the UK. Great to see you. Good to have you here. All right. We got 77 likes, 151 peeps in here now. That's awesome. Party of 5, great to see you. So again, guys, what we're going to do is what we didn't get to do yesterday is we're going to watch the court hearing and we'll discuss it. And then we'll go on and discuss some other stuff from there. Seema Turner, good to see you. What are you doing, Milo? What are you doing, Milo? What are you doing? Come here. Get your ball. Get your ball. That's the stop. Get your ball. Okay, whatever. Lynn69, thank you for joining us today. It's great to see you. Yeah, we'll be having an open discussion as well. So if Eddie wants to come up here, he's more than welcome. Where did you go, buddy? Come here, buddy. Come on. Come here. Come here. But you must be afraid of the chair or something. I don't know. It's weird. Oh, Lord Almighty. Agent Redact, Sylvia, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you so very much. 84 likes. We're getting there. We're getting there slowly but surely. You still here, Mama Bear? Maybe not. All right. Let me get this pulled up real quick for you guys and get things rolling. Again, it's great to have you all here with us today. I appreciate you guys so very much. One second, guys. Yes, thank you. Like what Salty said, welcome to all the new meatballs, and thank you for the gifting. I appreciate that from everyone so very much. He wears clothes. He does have clothes. He's got hoodies and t-shirts, and he's wearing a t-shirt right now. If I can get him to come to me. Welcome, Maureen Kelly from the UK. Good to see you. Are you here, Mama Bear? I guess not. Maybe not. Okay. Angela, hey, hey, good to see you. Thank you, Reverend. Appreciate that. I love that you love the channel. There she is. I told you she'd be here. Miss Carolyn Miller, good to see you. Thank you for joining us today, Carolyn. Good to have you here. So, like I said, we're going to check out. This is the second hearing. Obviously, the first one was completely closed. There was no cameras, no nothing in that one. And we didn't get to see. We know what the outcome was. Unfortunately, but you know, I was talking to a very wise person this morning. And she was right. The judge does what he has to do. They talked about Supreme Court rulings and things like that. I mean, he doesn't have certain choices. But again, and we're going to talk about this a little bit here coming up. And for you guys to understand. That's okay. Welcome, Carolyn. Good to see you. Absolutely. Bugsy, what's going on? Big freeze. I don't even want to know about that one. Right. So, but we're gonna watch this, to see it, not just to get it through Twitter. It's a little bit different, and talk about it from there. So here we go. Let me know if you guys have any sound or audio issues, I should say, and I can fix them for you. What's up, Mooch?
We should be okay. All right, let's get on the record, please. Thank you. We're now on the record. This is the state of Idaho versus Bryan Kohberger. Got an echo there, so. Case number CR 2922-2805. You have that adjusted properly? Okay, great. Couple of things I just want to share. Number one, I apologize for the delay. We were supposed to start at 1 o'clock. The hearing that started at 9:30 went a little long, but it was important. You're probably wondering why it was sealed compared to this part of the hearing, and that is because we were dealing with the procedure of the grand jury, the procedures of the grand jury, and in a lot of details, and the grand jury is secret. So that's why it's sealed, and whether you like it or not, it's baked into our United States Constitution and the Idaho Constitution. So there's a reason for that. I advised camera people not to turn on the cameras until I was on the record, and they turn off when the record is off. I just want to remind you, you just heard Matt talk to you about not having your phones, your laptops to film anything, to record anything. That would be a violation of the rules. And we will take away your laptop or your phone. Some of these rules have been violated in some of our hearings, and I have an obligation to put a stop to that. And I'm sure you're probably interested in this. I haven't put a decision out yet.
Thanks, J-Rod.
What I'm going to do is take control of the cameras in the courtroom. I'm not going to ban cameras in the courtroom, but I need to have more control over
Thank you, Josie. I appreciate
what the cameras are doing and what media or people who are not media are doing with the filming. I know I can only control so much.
Welcome, Lady Speedway.
That's why I continue to urge people to be patient and have some dignity and some restraint. And some of that I've heard or seen has been disappointing. Just so you know, yesterday I issued an order addressing IgG DNA, and there's going to be an order for in-camera review that I'm going to go through. In-camera does not mean anything about a camera. That just means I look at the information before I can share it with the defense. You see, what else did I want to kind of share with everybody? I think that's about it. So we're here now on the defense motion to dismiss indictment on grounds of error in grand jury instructions or in the alternative remand for preliminary hearing. So Mr. Logston, I believe, is going to present the argument. Thank you.
Hey, Gar. Well, as Your Honor is aware, I wrote a lengthy brief or two on the subject of where we're supposed to be legally with our grand juries and where we actually are. And as Your Honor let me know this morning, probably not going to change your mind because the Idaho Supreme Court has, I think the court thinks, gone the other way. So I guess I would accept that kind of ruling as long as the court agrees with everything else it has.
Oh, well,
But
I don't know about that.
assuming that you don't, let's, I guess, just kind of walk through the simple steps here. So at issue in this particular case is Federal Code 19-1107. And the infamous language in it that says that grand jury ought to find indictments and all evidence before them taken together, if unexplained or contradicted, would in their judgment warrant a conviction by a trial. And the first question that a court has to ask is, what does that mean? And you start with the plain language, which we argue. What warrants a finding or a conviction by a trial jury is beyond a reasonable doubt. And it meant that back in 1887, when the territory took all of these statutes, almost entirely from the state of California, and it means it today. And then we also pointed out that the great state of California, when they had these on their books from back in the 50s, had already a case in 1962 where they said that it's clearly something more than probable cause, but they weren't too specific about exactly what it meant. And the state has pointed out that if you look at really old dictionaries, it looks like the word warrant means what you might think it does. Old-timey folks, as it does to us, that if it warrants doing something, it means that it would permit doing something. So the plain language seems to support what we're saying. And the biggest problem that I have then is just that obviously everyone in the country disagrees with me from sea to shining sea. And so I'm now put in the position of trying to explain why that occurred and why in the year of our Lord 2023, we are suddenly finding out that that's not quite how things are supposed to be. Why did we forget that we passed all these laws? And I don't have a great answer for that, other than I think the only time I ever heard about field codes before I was looking into this was like a really short moment in a class that I took back in law school. So, I mean, it's somewhat famously kind of the first attempt to codify the law of the day. It takes place in New York and spreads across the country back in 1850. And I think what I read in the tea leaves from the New York decisions and the later California decisions is that there was pushback at some of the things that the field code is trying to do. And one of the things that the field code very openly said it was trying to do was fix the grand jury system. Because the grand jury system was believed to be essentially broken. For a lot of the same reasons we don't seem to like grand juries very much today. It was essentially believed that grand juries were hard to control. Grand juries would essentially always favor whatever it is they were told and would always indict the accused. And so as a system to protect people, it didn't seem very protective. And they pointed out in the field code, if you go back and read it, that essentially the secrecy aspect of the grand jury is both its most powerful sword and its kind of its worst aspect at the same time. Because you just don't know what you're going to get out of it. And so they create a bunch of statutes that start to rein in what grand juries can and can't do. And they create some scenarios under which grand juries can be reviewed. And they, in the New York, they call it their Court of Appeals, it's their Supreme Court, says, even though we have these statutes that say we should only set aside these indictments into these particular moments, clearly there's got to be some sort of a due process protection. If you're going to pass a bunch of statutes that rein in a grand jury, and if you can show that somebody's not following those to the prejudice of the accused, and that's going to work for dismissal as well. And that doesn't seem to be very controversial. We see similar language in that Gaspar case that we talked about in the state of Idaho, which I think dates to like 1913 or something along those lines. But at the same time, while
that's not true,
the
Rod.
state of New York is trying to figure out ways to not have to abide by the language of what would warrant a conviction by essentially saying, if you can tell the grand jury that is their burden, but you can also tell them the probable cause thing, as long as they hear both of it, it doesn't really matter. And then the state of Idaho says, well, that's not even what that means, without any additional explanation for what they're talking about. And California apparently just kind of forgets about it until sometime after they've already passed a law in the 40s that says you can only dismiss a grand jury indictment if you can show that there wasn't probable cause. That kind of moots the whole situation that they've obviously fixed it by statute. Our situation is such that we have this thing on the books, and the only group that seems to really dislike it is our Supreme Court, who keep having these opinions where they're like, please, prosecutors, stop telling people it's beyond reasonable doubt. This happens in the early 1900s, and it continues until the 80s, when they finally say, look, we passed a rule. I hope it's clear now. Stop saying that you're...
J-Rod, if you can hear me, if you just saw that, Daisy's talking about the attorney speaking, not about you, bro. Nothing to do with you, so.
burden is beyond reasonable doubt. Well, as the court knows, the way that those rules get created is a bunch of people that get invited to parties, unlike me, in the legal community go and are selected to sit in a room, decide what those rules should say. And there's quite a bit of the time it seems like the Supreme Court will later have an opinion and go, this is weird, why is there so many more rules? And so to simply say that, well, because the Supreme Court wrote it, that's their opinion on the matter isn't quite accurate. But clearly the Edmonton court was behind that as a concept. At the same time, nobody was arguing with them about it. Nobody argued about it, the issue, until just now. Well, that's not quite accurate. Obviously, Mr. Nosco raised this in a few district court cases up in Green County. But nobody's really been digging into this or raising it until this time. So when the court says, look, the Supreme Court's already got a rule on this, Supreme Court's already ruled on it, it's just not true. They have never ruled that probable cause is the basis because there was an argument about it. And they said, no, you're wrong, it's probable cause. That hasn't occurred. They ruled a lot of things, but that's not one of the ones. And the fact that they adopted a rule that says something that they believe doesn't necessarily set in stone what the law is, or for that matter, what the Constitution has to say about it. So the big issue, I think, at least my favorite issue here, was can the Idaho Supreme Court override the legislature and lower the burden of proof for the county? And that was a tricky one, because we don't really have a case that just comes out and says that the burden, or for that matter, I guess.
Will do, Leslie.
I don't know, we got this all kind of mixed up when we were doing the argument. So the burden of proof, I think we decided, was actually who has to show something, and then it was the standard of proof is the amount that has to be shown. But everybody confuses it all the time, and I'm confusing it right now as well. But I'll call it the standard of proof just to be less confusing. In any case, the standard of proof is that something that the judiciary has power over? In other words, is that simply a procedural rule, or is it a substantive rule of law that courts can't mess around with? And we argued, it cannot be that if the Supreme Court woke up tomorrow and declared that the standard of proof in our cases was something beyond reasonable doubt in trial cases, that we would also say, oh, well, that's what the courts get to do. Because if you read those cases, what they talk about is that that is a right, a due process right, essentially, of the accused that is set by the Constitution, right? That's what In re Winship is. It set the standard via the Constitution, locking in the standard of proof that's required for a conviction. And so when we talk about these standards of proof, it is true, obviously, that if you look through the case law, you'll see courts setting a standard of proof for their own evidentiary rules. But you don't see it in many other places. What you see them doing instead is having somebody come in and say, well, the legislature set this standard of proof, but we think you should make it higher or lower based on, and almost nobody ever says lower, it's always higher. And we're always arguing that the Constitution clearly must set it in at some higher point to protect people, and then the courts lean in and say, well, we don't see any particular reason why the legislature messed this up, or if you're in the United States Supreme Court, occasionally you say, well, we do think that this is goofy and we're going to raise it. Okay? I couldn't find a case where the Supreme Court or anybody else leaned in and said, we think that the legislature is being a little too protective of its people here. And we're going to move down the standard of proof for the government in this particular case, or one party versus the other. Typically, in this country, we try to protect the accused, and we believe that those protections are given to us via the Constitution and via these concepts of due process that come to us with common law, which is where this gets so messy, because the common law would tell you that it's probable cause, and it's some guy named Field in New York who's telling you that it should be something else. Well, we could get into all of that, but it would be, I think, more philosophical than anything else, because the state of Idaho didn't do it that way. The state of Idaho, as a territory, adopts a bunch of codes out of California, a code that they've already looked at, a code that they've already said, these words clearly mean something more than probable cause. This is what you're adopting. If you come and get it, the state of Idaho goes and gets it and adopts it. So that's what the state of Idaho is adopting. I obviously recognize that the founders that wrote the Constitution did not appear to recognize what was already on the books in this regard. However, just because they didn't recognize that doesn't mean it's not still part and parcel of what was thought to be true by a large portion of the citizenry of Idaho, who are the actuals who ratified the document. The only thing we know is that from 1890 to Edmondson, the Supreme Court of Idaho was repeatedly admonishing prosecutors to stop using a beyond reasonable doubt standard for a grand jury. And that, it seems to me, is pointing to this concept. I think we're going to talk about common practice. And common practice looks to have been that everybody thought that the standard for the grand jury was beyond reasonable doubt.
All right, Bryan.
I don't think this is worthy of the parade of nightmares that I've been reading about. Obviously, in each one of those cases, the prosecutor was able to pull it off. And little wonder, it's still a grand jury proceeding. It's still just the prosecutor in a room with 16 citizens, 12 of which have to agree. They get control over basically everything that's being put on. The guardrails being put in, hey, let's use admissible evidence. Hey, let's not pull in hearsay witnesses. That kind of thing is not going to somehow make this impossible and make it so that it can't possibly work. What it's intended to do is just make it so that if you're in a position to get an indictment against somebody, you're going to put on your A game. But obviously, we've been talking a bit about how we don't think that that's what occurred in this particular case. And we certainly don't think that if the court were to adopt this in this particular case, that this would even remotely cut the mustard, because we know from the grand jurors that at least 6 of them wanted to hear more until they were essentially cut off and told probable cause of the standard and what are you people doing.
You probably should cut that, what the grand jurors did or didn't do.
Fair enough, good. But I'm just pointing out that there's clearly prejudice in the record that the court can see from what they want to be instructed. It's also, as we argued, clearly going to be fundamental error. You tell the grand jury that this is the standard and it's actually something else. You can't possibly think that the result that you're getting is the accurate one, so you have to do it again. These are fundamental rights that people have, so clearly that would be the way.
Right, but you just agreed that the court and the case law, going back to at least Edmondson, have the standard as probable cause. So, to just say, well, they were given the wrong instruction is not exactly the case. I mean, that is the standard that has been used in Idaho for years, maybe 100 years. It was different. It was different there for a period of time, but after Edmondson, I thought that it was pretty much settled. Now I understand the argument between substantive and procedural, and that's that can be a legitimate argument, but I'm not sure it's fair to just say, well, they were given the wrong instructions if everybody's using that instruction throughout the state.
Well, Your Honor, if that were true, then I'm not really sure what I'm doing with my life, because I've spent much of it arguing that things that everyone in the state is doing are wrong.
True.
And occasionally, rarely, but occasionally, somebody says, no, that guy's right, and my client walks out of prison. So well,
that's fine. You can make an argument
Thanks,
that something should change, but are you telling me that other places in the state are giving a different instruction, that it should be beyond a reasonable doubt?
What I'm telling you, Court, is that it appears that up until 1980, that was true. And so the Supreme Court enters its rule, sort of has this ruling that talks about that, but nobody's arguing about it because they don't have access to the internet, and nobody has a copy of the field code or what California was up to.
Well, Justin Weisslein argued about it in a dissent in Edmondson.
And we thank him for it, although.
Okay.
If
you
you
can't
go
say
back,
that there hasn't been an argument about it.
well. No. If you go back and you read what Justice Weisslein did, Justice Weisslein didn't know about the field code. He knew it came out of California. He knew that it meant something different.
I think it's attached on the dissent. Some of that.
No,
Oh,
California.
those are earlier. Oh, that's the earlier session.
He has the California code, and he has the stuff from the territories. That's what he's got. But he doesn't know. If you read the field code, which apparently nobody did, except Justice Field in California. If you read it, it literally tells you what it's trying to do. It spells it right out, and you can find it for free on Google Books, which is where I got it. I don't have a copy. I'm not even sure where you find it, but except for Google Books, you can find this thing, and they have a whole preamble to how they're trying to save the concept of the grand jury. They want it to be better than what it is. They understand people have concerns about it. Let's make it better. And it gets adopted in California, and then we took it from that. And then that's what I think should matter. And the fact that the plain language of the statute is being read by every prosecutor in the state up until the 80s when the Supreme Court finally hits them to stop, because the statute's relatively clear. And so the only person who's pushing back against this are these Idaho Supreme Court justices who don't like it. But there's nobody coming to them and saying, here's a copy of the field code. This is where this all comes from. This was the point. Instead, there's just this concern that who could possibly want such a thing? How would we be safe if our communities are only able to indict people beyond reasonable doubt? It's just too much. It's too high a stake. That's hard to believe given how many of these cases are making it up because they were convicted. There's no reports anywhere that I was able to find that in the state of Idaho, all these prosecutors were mistakenly using beyond a reasonable doubt. There's just no indictments. Nobody was going to prison. Nobody was getting the death penalty. It's a free-for-all, and we had posses riding around and having to deliver justice because the standard was too high of the grand jury proceeding. But that's not what was occurring. What you had was a perfectly well-running system that you had Supreme Court justices that were not aware of where this stuff was coming. If somebody had come to them and said it, we have a ruling, but nobody did. In fact, we don't have really any state that's ever done the heavy work of this. You've got the New York Court of Appeals is about the only one that was aware because it happened there, and they've kind of let it drain away over time. Well, other states can do what they want. They can pass new statutes. Their constitutions are older than ours, etc. Our Constitution was written in 1890. So it's going to lock in what the people thought that they had as their law and what they considered to be their standard of due process at that time. And the only history we have is you've got the Supreme Court saying, you don't have that right. You got a bunch of prosecutors, of all people, thinking that we do. And that's what you're looking at. The fact that the rest of the country is off doing other things, I don't think necessarily matters. What matters in terms of the courts has to read plain language of the statute. The court has to consider the fact that, at the very least, California knew what it was up to, and that even if the people who wrote our Constitution didn't know what was going on, that doesn't mean that the people who wrote the Idaho revised statutes in 1887 didn't know what they were signing on for. And whether or not they were sitting at the Constitutional Convention is something that I put enough effort into to figure that one out, but I don't think it necessarily answers the question anymore. Anyway, I think the only other thing I wanted to touch on was how, by agreeing with me, the court is able to save the indictment by turning it into a presentment. As a presentment, there's a lot laxer evidentiary rules and everything else. Much of the complaints we would have about it essentially disappear, and the state has its presentment. And as far as I'm told, one of the reasons why we had a grand jury in this case is because in another case I had argued that if you don't do a grand jury, you can't have the death penalty, which I still believe. But if you have a presentment, that's also listed. And so the state still gets what it wants. And we get a preliminary hearing, which it seems to me would be worth the candle for us.
I think there was some instruction about present for the grand jury, was it not? They were given that option.
Well, I think they were told about it. So I don't know if the court maybe can find it. I can't find a single presentment in the history of Idaho. So I don't know if they've really ever been used.
I don't know.
And I hadn't really even thought about what they are, what they meant until taking up this argument. But from what I could tell, going back to the field code and looking at everything else in the statutes that we have on hand, I mean, essentially it's like grand jury light. Typically for the presentment, the idea for who is getting the presentment seems to come from the grand jury members themselves. They just come in with some information about somebody, they make an accusation like it's a complaint, and then it goes off and it gets treated more like a complaint than it does an indictment. I don't know if the court found anything otherwise, but that's the way that it appears to supposed to work. Like I said, I don't know if anybody's ever done one, but I do think that what the state accomplished in the indictment in this proceeding would easily meet the requirements for presentment. And I don't think we would have any real ability to argue with them. I mean, the grand jury itself can just come in and say, these are the facts I heard from my neighbor, and I think that guy committed a crime, and that's enough to start the wheels of justice. And I'm relatively certain we've met that requirement. And so if the court does that,
welcome, B-Boppity.
then the state still has a piece of paper that says the death penalty can be sought in the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution. And a preliminary hearing would be offered to give us the ability to take a closer look at this case than what was given at the actual grand jury. So, you know, everybody could win. I do have that as an option for the court. Does the court have any questions? It looks like you might.
I might on your reply.
Okay.
Let's see.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Nye?
Thank you, Your Honor. As much as I enjoy the frolic through legislative history, as a trial attorney, we usually have a shortcut, and that is we check to see if the Idaho Supreme Court has ruled on the issue. and in this case, it has multiple times. So in Edmondson, the Supreme Court said, and I quote, "The purpose of the grand jury proceeding is to determine whether sufficient probable cause exists to bind the defendant over for trial. The determination of guilt or innocence is saved for a later day. As long as the grand jury has received legally sufficient evidence, which in and of itself supports the finding of probable cause, it is not for an appellate court to set aside the indictment." This court is bound by that holding. The Idaho Supreme Court applied that holding in 2 subsequent cases, Martinez and Jones, both cited in my brief. The Court of Appeals has applied that holding repeatedly. This court is also bound by its holdings. The only other thing I would add is, to summarize Mr. Hodgson's arguments, Idaho law supports it as long as you ignore the Idaho Supreme Court. California law supports it as long as you ignore the California Supreme Court. Idaho's constitutional history supports it as long as you ignore the founding fathers. I could go on, but there's nothing to see here. The Idaho Supreme Court has ruled on this, and this court is not right. Unless the court has any questions, I'll respond.
Thank you, Mr. Nye.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Logston, do you want to add anything else?
Well, that's just not what happened. I mean, Judge, courts say things all the time. We call it dicta. When a court is listing off,
Sometimes we call it the law.
sometimes, but what we're talking about when we talk about evidence is we're talking about it. I mean, nobody was arguing in that case that probable cause was the standard. They were arguing over whether or not it's fair that some people get a prelim and some people get a grand jury. That's what that argument was about. And the guy didn't come in and say, "Oh no, I got a grand jury and the standard is beyond a reasonable doubt. But that's too, I don't like that. I'd rather have a prelim with a probable cause standard." That doesn't occur in that case for various, I'm sure, fantastic reasons. And the same thing happens in these later cases. I mean, it gets responded to. And yeah, like I said, the Supreme Court adopted a rule, but it's never tested the constitutionality of its own rule. It's never heard arguments on any of these things. It doesn't, it's not stating a holding after an argument. What it's doing is it's just reviewing what it believes the law to be, that nobody's picking a fight about it. I'm picking a fight about it.
And you may have the opportunity to do that to the Supreme Court.
Well,
I mean, that's what you're
And
building.
if
That's what you're building for.
if
Because
that's-
you know that I am constrained by existing law. I can't just change the law as a trial court if it's established. And I would say that in Edmondson, there wasn't an argument because it was settled law. I mean, I think that's really the problem. So, of course, a lot happened from 1880, 1890 to now, but the law doesn't always just sit still. I mean, it evolves, and that may be just what happened naturally. I don't agree that the language of the statute is completely clear too. I mean, I think you can interpret it different ways, and a lot of people have interpreted that language different ways. Whether it's beyond a reasonable doubt or a probable cause. And you can argue with me about that. I'm kind of baiting you about that. So
Judge, the cases that say that are very self-serving. These are courts that are essentially openly hostile to the idea of using a beyond a reasonable doubt standard. And so they make claims like to warrant really means to permit the trial jury to see it. That's not the wording of this statute. The California case gets written in the backdrop of a statute being passed in the 1940s that says probable cause is what you're going to look at when you're deciding whether or not these indictments should stand. So it really doesn't, whether or not the grand jury is being told something else to some extent turns into a new point. I mean, the reality is, just because the courts didn't like what the legislature adopted, and in our case, unlike California, unlike New York, but what was part of the concept of due process in our Constitution was written. Just because the Supreme Court doesn't like it, doesn't mean it's somehow settled law because it refuses to follow it. It has to actually have a case and determine it. Now, occasionally, they can pass rules like they did, and so that's where this whole question of whether or not this is a substantive right and procedural right. But they never ruled on it. And Your Honor has the ability to look at the whole mess, the totality, and say, what is the law? What was the law in 1890? And when did it change? I don't think what the court can write is an opinion that says, well, we don't know when or how it changed, but by 1890, clearly the probable cause was the same. There has to be something where the Supreme Court considers these things in order for it to be settled law in a way that, in which Your Honor would be right and say, I can't do anything about it. They've never settled this question because nobody ever brought it up. Because it's really hard to get a copy of the field code in 1913. Well, I don't know. But
It was, well, there was I can't remember the name right at this moment, but in 1950s, there was dicta where the judge, the appellate judge said, no, that's not the standard because they were using the unreasonable doubt in that case. But anyway, there was a discussion in that case about what the standard of proof is or should be in the grand jury. So there have been touches of that along the way, I think, but you're right, there's not a whole lot of law until maybe Edmondson that was pretty clear. And then as Mr. Nye pointed out, a couple of decisions after that. We've got a case, I think it was 1987, something like that. So, yeah, I mean, I appreciate your argument. I mean, it's interesting. I'm constrained by the law, though. Back to that. You're making a record. That's good.
Judge, Edmund decision held some things. It's true, but nobody was arguing about that standard of proof. The fact that they stated while they're walking through what a grand jury is versus what a preliminary hearing is, that doesn't settle what the standard is. Just because they said it doesn't make it the law. I think their jurisdiction is limited, and yet broader than the United States Supreme Court. Although if you read that most recent opinion where Judge Stegner doesn't agree with any of them about what their jurisdiction is like, it gets kind of complicated. But the point is, they can't just say in an opinion where nobody's arguing anything, oh, and by the way, the law of the land is this. Nobody briefed this issue in essence. Nobody briefed it in any of the cases that came after it. They didn't set in stone via that opinion what the standard is. They tried by adopting the rule. The rule is the question. The court has to try to figure out, is it a procedural right or a substantive right? If the court says it's a procedural right, and essentially what the court is saying is that the courts get to decide how much it takes for one of us to be thrown in the lockup, put to death, etc. Which I can't find any case that has ever said that. They've all said that the standards being set by the Constitution or the legislature, setting these standards over and over and over again. So for the Idaho Supreme Court to issue a rule setting the standard of proof, even though there is a statute that says otherwise, they can't do that. That didn't become something that, I mean, they did it, but the court is in a position to consider whether or not they could do it. The court can tell the Idaho Supreme Court this rule isn't constitutional. Courts can do that. I mean, we consider bail issues. We consider bail on appeal, things like that. Statute versus procedural rights. Those things occur. And the lower court can look at that like anybody else can. Who's in the right? Is it the legislature or is it the court? So I think the court can decide all these things. But if the court's going to say it can't, I hope you'll at least write a 32-page order in which you explain how right I am about everything except that. Thank you.
I'll work on that. Thank you. I appreciate the argument. I think it's really creative. And I appreciate the journey back through history. I think it is an important factor in determining what the law is and why the law was established the way it was. But even you, okay, and I've heard this, but even in your brief, and this is your quote, okay, that the whole of modern jurisprudence on the issue is against it, as well as the least one founding father of this state. So I get it. I mean, what it comes down to me is that I am constrained by what I believe is settled law in Idaho. I may be wrong, but this is certainly an issue that you would have to bring up with a higher court, like the Idaho Supreme Court, and I look forward to getting that from your perspective settled in Idaho. We'll see. There's the
See that right there? I took that as him challenging them to take that to the Supreme Court to try to get it changed. In essence, to make that easier to deal with. You know what I'm saying?
That's what it sounded like to me too.
That's how I took that wholeheartedly, yeah. And I, again, as I was speaking with somebody very, very wise this morning about this, I feel like, he's told them on the defense side, he's brought them to a point where he said, and that's what she said to me this morning as well, and I agreed with her. He's given them like a couple options to bring the argument in a sense. Give it to me. Like, I want you to give me the argument so I can do something with this. And I'm just not, they're not bringing it the right way, I guess. But again, I absolutely believe that he is challenging them to take that to the Supreme Court to make something change with that so that they can do something. In essence, we don't have that time. Well, we may, because of how long this trial is probably going to take, but I would say go for it, take it to the Supreme Court, show them the scenario. Because in a sense, it sounds like he wants them to do something about it, but he can't. His hands are tied with this. There's nothing he can do about it until, the Idaho Supreme Court changes it. So, and that's what I'm taking from this conversation, in a sense. And like I said, this person I spoke with this morning had stated that 2 hearings ago, he did it again, where he was giving them the option to bring an argument to him. They didn't. Not a good one, and good enough to make it make sense to him, for him to do something. They haven't done it yet, okay? And I question that in a sense. I've supported the defense and what they do. Why aren't they bringing a stronger argument? That's my question. With what they're saying and what we're seeing, we haven't seen a lot from the defense. I mean, we've seen a lot. I should say that. We've seen a lot, but not enough to make a good argument for him to say, hey, the prosecutorial misconduct and stuff like that, prove that, show that give him that argument to work with so he can do something. They haven't done it, guys. In my opinion, they haven't done it. I'm sorry. And I'm not sticking up for the prosecution, and I'm not downgrading the defense. I'm just saying they haven't really brought a solid argument to prove, that there's something wrong. But I definitely agree that I feel that he's challenging them to make something happen, show something, give him something to work with, because he can't. He has to do his job as a judge, and I'm not downing him for that, anything. In my opinion, he didn't do nothing wrong. He does come off a little cocky sometimes, but he's a judge, guys, But, I mean, maybe he's not even trying to do that. It has to be done outside of this case, yeah, that's the thing. That's a fact. Thank you, Daisy. That's the way it has to be done. So, it's hard to say, but I don't think he did anything wrong. I don't. Judge-wise, as far as the judge, I think he did what he was supposed to do, and he can only do so much. His hands are tied, like I said, when it gets to a certain point, so I have no issues with him at this point. Like I said, he does come off a little cocky sometimes, but sometimes it's just how you read the personality, I guess. I don't know. But I'll keep going, and welcome back, Bear.
Rule, of course, which, as we've talked about, but this argument really is fighting against some case law too. You may say that it's all dicta. I mean, that's debatable, I suppose. But the Idaho criminal rules, specifically Rule 6.5A, expressly states that probable cause is the standard, not beyond a reasonable doubt, and for a grand jury's indictment. And I think I have 3 or 4 recent, because this argument has been circulating in the state. I think I've had 3 or 4 district judge decisions denying the motion and the argument. So I am going to deny that argument. I think the argument is good, but I can't go that far. Not today. I'll give you a written decision. I can't guarantee it's going to be 32 pages. It might be longer. It might be shorter. So we'll see. But it's always enjoyable to have an argument with you, Mr. Longston. So I think that's all we have to do still. Ms. Taylor?
That's it for today, Your Honor.
Okay, and Mr. Thompson?
Yes, sir. We're done for today.
Okay, nothing else to address then. Okay, well, I hope you all got a touch of Idaho history and the law and how it works, and our Idaho and United States Constitution. So go out and learn some more. Okay, thank you all. We're adjourned.
And there it is. So, I mean, I blatantly feel like, I don't know. Real quick, I want to say, listen, guys, and I've said this before, I know you guys get it. There's people that come in here that support the channel that you guys don't care for in some senses. I get it. I understand. I don't expect you guys to like everybody. Just please be respectful. Some people take things to heart. Not saying anybody said anything or did anything in particular. All I'm saying is let's not be rude to anybody if we can help ourselves, okay? And again, I'm not saying anybody did on purpose. I'm just saying let's try not to do that. That's all. Oh, 100% Virginia. Here's the thing, guys. I can't be mad at the judge. When I heard it, not seeing it, for whatever reason, it's different to me. I was a little upset yesterday when I heard the whole 6 jurors staying, this, that, and everything else. Watching it, it comes off different though. I don't know why, it just came off different. I'm still kind of shitty about it, you know, and I feel like at the same time, his hands are tied. He can only do what he can do, but that's based on Supreme Court rules. So, and again, I feel like that was a challenge to them. Take it to the Supreme Court, make them do something about it, and then we can talk about it. You know what I mean? Oh, right, Daisy. That's what it is, basically. You know, they wanted more info like the rest of us, and they were denied, which, you know, in that essence, that sense, I'm sorry, they shouldn't be denied. They should be able to get as much info as they can. But if prosecution didn't have it, what are you going to do? You know, and if they just decided not to give them more, I would think that they should have to give them more. But we already know how that works. It happens all the time, Sherry. It really does. Obviously, it happens a lot because, you know, we're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. Well, we know how that works. So, you know, but, you know, everybody's entitled to their opinion about this, and I respect everyone's. I'm not upset with him at this point because, like I said, I think he's doing what he can do, and I think he's still waiting on them to show him where the problem is, and they haven't really, like, put it in front of him as much as they should have. No, there's no more hearings today. I don't believe. I haven't seen anything. Let me double check to make sure. Because things do happen sometimes, and I have no clue where they come from. So give me 1 second here. But I don't believe there is. 1 second. Uno momento. What the hell is it? Okay. All right. All right. Got it coming up now, guys. Sorry. What? I believe we can all donate $5. Get him, Jose. Okay, there's one new document dropped on the 26th, and it's a media request, so there's nothing in there new about anything else. Excuse me. Joy Jones, good to see you. No, I don't believe that. That was the hearing that we just watched was from yesterday. There were two. The first one during the day in the morning was closed completely, and the second one was the one we just watched. So, again, moving backwards. Hold on a minute, guys. One moment, please. Gotta get this back up for you guys too. If I can get there. Hold on a moment, everyone. All right. 1 second. There we go. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead and drop a link. Welcome back there. And give you guys the options to speak on this. We didn't get a lot of that yesterday, but what am I doing here? Cancel that. Sorry. All right, paste it. Boom. And bingo. Okay. Again, to give you guys the option, there's the link is there, and you guys can jump in here and we'll talk. Please do, if you will. There he is. Bingo.
So we are coming in, and our perspective is picking up from when the second hearing begins, having missed the first
Right.
closed hearing from the grand jury dismissal.
Yes, sir.
That would have been probably when Ann Taylor would have been making the argument.
Absolutely.
Now, help me recall, there were like 24 arguments to this entire motion to dismiss, if I recall.
Yes, there was. 1 second, buddy. Thank you, Jessica Santiago, gifted 5 memberships. Joy Jones, Bernadette Thomas, Adilax, Miss Laughingstock, Riley Nicole. I think that's it. Thank you for that again, Jessica. I appreciate that. And yeah, there actually was, but quite a few arguments actually.
So unless I'm overlooking something, this video during the open afternoon hearing is only showing us a small number of those arguments, one of which is the probable cause versus reasonable doubt argument.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do believe.
So I don't believe Ann Taylor files this motion to dismiss pinned on the hopes of having Jay Logsdon convincing the judge, about this argument alone. There has to have been more substantial argument here previously. As you say, stronger argument.
Yeah, and I think there was probably something talked about in the first hearing, like you were just saying, pieces of that were brought up in there, and we just didn't get to see all of that because that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. You know what I mean?
So my question then would be, are we waiting for him to rule on what took place in the morning?
I imagine. I mean, I haven't heard anything from that.
Yeah, I'm a little confused on that.
Yeah, and I would have thought that we would have heard. I mean, it's closed, therefore, in turn, maybe we're not supposed to know. But I would have ventured to say that there should be a document put out that states what happened and what the ruling was on that. I would have ventured to say, I could be wrong, but that's how I would imagine and we'd see it. Thank you, Bernadette.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Welcome, Willie. That's what I would think. You know what I mean?
No.
I don't think we're going to hear anything verbally or anything on the news. We're going to get a document dropped that's going to state, judge's ruling based on this, this, and this. But again, we didn't hear anything in that secondary hearing that was anything to do with that, in my opinion.
Yeah, they had their poker face on. We don't know. There was no one based on their body language telling anything about that first hearing. It's almost as if it didn't happen.
Yeah, right. It's like I saw that too, and literally, I watch body language on literally everybody.
Yeah,
and did not move a centimeter during that whole thing. She didn't flinch. Like,
I will let you guys know. Judge is a fan of Jay Logsdon and the way that he puts out his documents. Okay. Therefore, in turn, I think that's why they allow for him to talk there rather than Ann say anything, because Jay and Judge is a fan of Jay's.
Oh no, I'm just saying, like, if you just watch her sitting there, like she didn't move.
No, she didn't.
Like, you know what I mean?
No, she did not at all.
It's crazy.
It was interesting to say the least. I just checked. Excuse me. I just checked right before Willie jumped up, or right before you jumped up here, Eddie. There's nothing new dropped other than that one document from as another media request is all it was. So I'm gonna venture to say maybe Monday. I'm praying, fingers crossed, that we see something Monday that comes from that. I really would have loved to have been a fly in the courtroom when they explained the prosecutorial misconduct. That's the one thing I want to know.
Well, it's funny how that's the one hearing that was sealed.
Right. I didn't even see that one, Salty. The IGG document, I didn't see that.
Yeah, and I also read into, if that is a document she's talking about, or here she's talking about, I read into whatever was put out, because the judge did say that he's going to comb over the IGG on what will be given and not given to the defense.
Right.
And if you read the document, like, it sounds like he's going to come over and give them what he thinks.
What he thinks.
What is that?
That's what I would, and that's a good question. What do you take from that, Eddie?
Well, my takeaway is not that positive. If you're, hoping for, fair trial here, what interest does he have in looking over that and determining how to sort through it and eliminate bits and allow the defense to have the rest?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it makes you look at him in a way, almost, like, what do you mean by that? I mean, I get what he means. Okay, I'm not saying that he's crooked or anything like that. I don't know how to react to that. I'll be honest with you guys.
I'm not saying I'm just saying it's just, who is he to determine what evidence is given to this defense for this guy to get a fair trial?
Yeah,
I mean, has he ever done a death penalty case before? I
don't know that. I don't know.
I don't think he has. So, he's sitting there acting like, I don't know. It's odd. I'm not saying he's crooked. I'm just saying it's odd that he wants to go through instead of, because he didn't go through anything else.
Yeah, it is off. I'll give you that, and I agree. It's definitely off. I understand that it's the law, but it's just a little weird. That's all. Okay. And this is the IGG document. I did find it. I just looked over. I did have my glasses on once again, Salty, as I spoke with you about before. Yeah, I feel like he is, like I said, I can't be angry with him. I feel like he's doing what he can do to an extent. You know what I mean? His hands are tied after a certain point, guys. We know that. He
invited the argument, so
very much so. That I do agree with wholeheartedly. Yeah, and then again, I think at some point he challenged them to go to the Supreme Court, take it to them, get them to do something about it, so I can do something because my hands are tied.
Because you can't do shit.
Yeah.
That's what sucks. Is like, you could tell like he doesn't agree with it, but he can't. It's not going to apply to this case.
That's how I took that. That's exactly what I took from that. Yes. Let me see something here. Hold on. Good Lord. Okay. Let me see here. November 13th of 2022, 4 University of Idaho students were found murdered as part of law enforcement's investigation into the homicides. The FBI employed the use of investigative genetic genealogy, IgG, using DNA located on a K-bar knife sheath found at crime scene. Through IgG processes, the FBI constructed a family tree of individuals whose DNA matched with the DNA found on the knife sheath. The FBI then sent local law enforcement a tip to investigate defendant Bryan Kohberger. Kohberger was arrested December 30th, 2022, and charged with 4 counts of unaliving in the first degree and 1 count of burglary. Nothing about law enforcement's use of IgG was used to obtain the arrest warrant for Kohberger or to obtain the search warrant for his DNA. Now, we're going to talk about that right there in a second. The state has now filed a motion to prevent the disclosure of the IgG information to the defense. The defense opposes the motion and filed a motion to compel requesting discovery of everything pertaining to the IgG investigation, including the family tree built by the FBI. That's interesting, as far as I'm concerned. Disclosure of information gathered from an IgG investigation is an issue of first impression in Idaho. The state claims that the IgG information was not used to obtain any warrant and will not be used at trial. But we all know, see, this is what I have, the problem I have with this, okay? That is how they arrested him, right or wrong?
I would say right.
That's what I thought. That's what they used to obtain his arrest, okay? Now, unless we've read something wrong or seen something wrong, you're right, Eddie, and I feel the same way. So, excuse me again, and will not be used at trial for the reasons set forth below. The court finds that the defense is likely entitled to see at least some of the information from the IgG investigation, even if it may ultimately be found to have no relevance to Kohberger's defense. However, because the court has not seen exactly what information pertaining to the use of IgG is available, the court cannot say precisely what should and what should not be disclosed at this time because of this uncertainty. The court grants the state's request for an in-camera review. And by the way, that just means like in quarters with the judge. It doesn't mean like on camera. Of the IgG information. After such review, the court will enter the appropriate discovery and protective orders. Number 2 is the background. On November 13th, 2022, 4 University of Idaho students, Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogan, Xana Kernoodle, and Ethan Chapin, were found deceased in Goncalves, Mogan, and Kernoodle's off-campus home on King Road in Moscow, Idaho. The cause of death for each was ruled a homicide. While investigating the unalivings, law enforcement discovered a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed next to Mogan. Affidavit of probable cause statement of Brett Payne, the Idaho State Lab, located a single source of male DNA suspect profile left on the button snap of the knife sheath ID. Once law enforcement had single source DNA from the K-bar knife sheath, they conducted what is called a short tandem repeat STR analysis. STR DNA analysis involves looking at 20 regions within human DNA. That allows law enforcement to make a direct comparison between 2 STR DNA profiles. Law enforcement submitted the STR DNA profile obtained from the K-bar knife sheath to the Combined DNA Index System, CODIS, a database of STR DNA profiles from convicted offenders, arrestees, and crime scene evidence to identify the source of the DNA. No match was found, which is motive for protective order at 2. Motion for protective order. My apologies, guys. Meanwhile, law enforcement continued to investigate the homicide. They conducted a video canvass in the area of the King Road residence. Affidavit of probable cause statement of Brett Payne. The video canvass revealed a white sedan that picked the interest of investigators' ID. The video footage was provided to a forensic examiner with the FBI, who initially identified the sedan as a 2011-2013 Hyundai Elantra, but later indicated it could be a 2011 through 2016 Hyundai Elantra ID. On November 29th of 2022, after reviewing video footage and asking law enforcement agencies to be on the lookout for a white Hyundai Elantra in the area, a 2015 white Elantra registered to defendant Bryan Kohberger was located in Pullman, Washington ID. The state's case alleges that this information, law enforcement determined that Kohberger's with this information that law enforcement determined that Kohberger's physical description matched that given to investigators by a surviving roommate of the victims.
No, that's interesting.
Go ahead, bud.
That part right there is interesting because there was no physical description.
That's right. That's absolutely correct. You're in my head again. You are absolutely correct. There was no
Hold on,
physical.
can you explain that again?
It says that.
Sorry, I'm a little slow.
No, you're okay. The state's case alleges that this information, law enforcement determined that Kohberger's physical description matched that given to investigators by a surviving roommate. The only person that we know that did that in the PCA was Dylan Mortensen, and there was no physical description given of him. Okay.
What?
There wasn't.
5'10" or taller, bushy eyebrows, wearing a mask, and
Bryan Kohberger's not 5'10". Okay.
Well, that's the thing. But then also you have 22,000 Hyundai Elantras in the area. Imagine how many people that are 5'10" or taller, male, whatever, and you pick that. So just perfectly, you pick out the car and you pick out him.
Right. And we know that there were more than one white car in that area that night too. So
Oh boy.
Welcome, Salty.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Cool.
So that's a problem for me right there. But moving forward,
Before you move forward, I'll just add
Yes,
to
sir.
what Willie said. So not only look for the people that fit that description that are male, that drive that white car, but also look at all the females that own that same white car.
Thank you.
Because isn't it possible
I
that
don't know.
some female has a boyfriend who's too wise to take his own white car to that crime scene? So he's gonna, while she's sleeping, slip away, use her car so that he's never discovered.
Well, I have a
You
question.
investigate those cars too.
Yeah, and I have a question back to you and to
Not to mention-
really everybody.
To go with that real quick though, why does it have to be a male? It could have been a female.
That's what I was going to say. How did they
Okay.
know it was a 5'10" male if there was no hair described? There was no. I mean, they just said 5'10" male.
They didn't say they saw bumps on the front of the shirt to say that they were breasts or anything like that. Okay, none of that was just, or they couldn't see that, so you don't know if that's male or female. That's what I'm saying.
Did they give a race? Did they give a race or no?
No,
That's what I'm saying.
There
So they gave.
was no physical description. Period.
So I know some women that are 5'10", bushy eyebrows. I mean,
Emma Bailey had bushy eyebrows. If you put a mask on Emma Bailey, she looked like Bryan Kohberger's sister. I'm sorry, they do.
I didn't even think of that.
Dylan Mortensen, yeah, right, Jules. It's possible the person Dylan saw was female. We don't know what the rest of the person looks like. 5'10", bushy eyebrows could mean anything, but again, we don't know the specifics of what she said.
But that brought you to Bryan, and now, like you said, potentially you could have been looking at two genders.
That's right. That's absolute fact. And I thank you, Jules.
Wow.
That's what bothers me about that. There was no description. We don't know exactly what Dylan said. And I just, for some reason, I struggle with what she said to begin with. I struggle with the statement in the PCA. I always have. Period.
Well, additional to that, wouldn't you, as the investigator, assume that because of Dylan's condition, she went into the shock phase, so she was stunned, or whatever, by something? So isn't it possible that the other, if there were multiple, the other were unseen by her? They already left the house, or they were still in the house before she retreated back into her bedroom.
Yep, very much so. And again, 5'10" and 6'3" or 6'2" are there's a huge difference there. Okay.
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, to see you, and I think somebody that would look at somebody from a distance, even a short distance, would know that person was over 6 foot tall or below 6 foot tall. That's all I'm saying as far as that goes. And she's probably, I would venture to say that she's like 5'9", 5'8", or 5'9". She's taller for a girl. So for her to look at somebody from her stature, okay, you see what I'm saying with that? And it's nighttime.
So
whatever
basically,
she was in.
she could have said he's an inch taller than me, or more.
Right.
How does that
Yeah.
make sense? Wouldn't she
And
know if he was way more than 5'10"?
let's look at this real quick like this, guys. Okay, we know that she opened her door, according to her, this much, and looked out and saw this at nighttime from a crack in her door. And you are going to tell me that that guy was 5'10" with bushy eyebrows, and you know that he was all clad in black, her words. I've always had a problem with that. Now,
Well, no, I thought she said that he walked towards her. Some
he was
shit.
walking towards her. That's because and that's why we know she doesn't know if he left then or not. He was walking towards her, and she closed her door again.
Well, if you read, in the PCA, it says that she saw him walk towards the back door, which leads them to believe the murderer left the scene, or the killer, whatever verbiage they use there, which means to me that means that she felt threatened by the person that she saw. So there's no, people are saying, oh, she might have thought she knew the person. No, because they use that verbiage in there, murder, that the killer left the scene, not that some person left the scene, that the killer left the scene, making that person the person that did it.
Right.
So
right. We never had a clean, clear, full physical description on who the perpetrators was, or person of interest was, I should say. Ever. So to make that statement right here, that's in my opinion, that's a lie. Okay.
Or a sketch.
Yeah. Right. And again, how many people have we seen with bushy eyebrows in the past year?
Way too many.
Male and female.
There's no making sense of Dylan Mortensen till we get her on the witness stand.
That's right. That's absolutely.
We have tried. We've tried. Is it dark? Can the girl not see? Is she drunk? Does she not? What the hell, Dylan? I got a big ass headache when it comes to Dylan Mortensen.
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
It's a huge mess. It's a giant mess.
I would bring up, if I was Anne, I would bring up a picture of the dad from American Pie and say, those are bushy eyebrows.
Anne's going to get her turn when she crosses. They're going to have to put Dylan on the witness stand. There's no way around it.
And they're gonna shred her.
Anne's going to get her. Anne will take her shot at Dylan, and I'm ready for it because we all have questions, and they're only going to come out once she hits that witness stand box.
Well,
they're not coming out.
8 hours. I want to see the 8 hours of communication so bad.
The communication's the key. Because it would have been so easy to say I was asleep and didn't hear a thing, versus I heard and saw this weird stuff and this and that, and then we were texting each other and blah blah blah. It was easy to. I mean, you can say you're out riding around, so why can't you just say you were asleep, Dylan? But that's not what you chose to say.
No, and I'll be honest with you guys. I think the absolute closest thing to the truth is going to come out when those two girls get put on stand, period.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. That's the closest to any truth we're going to get, because she's going to shred them. It's going to be brutal. It really is. And it's going to break them down, and then the truth will flow. We know that.
Yeah.
At least something close to the truth will flow. And that's where we're going to get.
See, I truly want to see the emotions and the theatrics that each of them put on, or if they put on, to see.
And that's how you're going to know what's real and what's not. You're right.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's going to be. I'm a big people watcher myself, and I just see Dylan as a big ass. I don't mean to cut. I'm a salty mouth from the South. I am my papa's granddaughter. I tend to cuss, but yeah, she. Yeah, I don't know. Is she just like a airhead? You know what I'm saying? Is the girl just
It sounds like it, because if these are my kids, and there was any part of my mind that thought that my child bled out and there was any kind of opportunity for them to be saved, and she decided to not call 911.
Of course.
That's right. That's how they're going to approach that. You realize that, right? They're going to approach it that way too, especially if it's a cross-examine.
Well, they're going to want to know how can you, here's the problem with Dylan. You can't say, I thought I heard the dog. I thought I heard party noise. I thought I heard this and that. I thought I heard somebody say, I'm here to help you. But then I got scared and locked my door. At the point you became scared, what did you do about it? Did you just text with Bethany? Did you hear what I just heard? Do you see anything down there? Okay, we're good. Let's go to sleep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I would ask her flat out, did you guys clean up anything?
Well, the thing
outcome
about
after.
that is if you know enough about evidence and cases, they know if there's a cleanup in that house. And Taylor's going, you can't hide it. The prosecution
the
can
thing.
walk in there and go, oh my God, they covered this up. They cleaned it. We got to clean up the cleanup. And Taylor's
that's
going to
what
see the
Ann's gonna bring
cleanup of
up.
the cleanup.
But
Right.
Yeah.
but that's what Ann said she's going to use. She's going to use the PCA against them because what did they find in front of her door?
Well,
latent footprint.
you got to talk to some crime scene analysts about that because
Yeah.
the stuff when you see the guys in the windows with the white suits and the little respirator mask, they're in there spraying a certain chemical. That's when that latent print got developed. I'm not saying there wasn't a cleanup. Don't get me wrong. But I'm telling you is if there was an actual cleanup with cleaning products, it's going to show up when they take up that evidence, right?
I
So
agree.
the bleach is going to be present.
I would figure 6 hours of a dried bloody footprint would show up to the human visible eye rather than needing a
Well, it
chemical in the second
depends.
time
If you
around.
have if you have a booty on and you barely stepped in anything to start with, how much actual transfer blood from that shoe or booty or whatever the hell you had on is really good. I'm curious about it myself because it's like, why wasn't it so visible? So
And
I'm
why
trying to
there was
figure
only-
out why
yeah,
was
why
it
there was
not
only
so
one.
visible, right? If it
Yeah.
had been smeared and wiped, they couldn't tell there was a diamond shaped pattern present if it was smeared and wiped clean.
Exactly.
They're going to detect. They can detect. Like I watch a lot of evidence shows, real ones, not the fake ones, real ones. And so they had sent a sample out, and they got the results back, and they're like, "Look, we can tell you there's blood present. We can't tell you who's what kind at this point, but I can tell you there's a heavy amount of bleach present in this."
Right.
So
That's it right there.
and
I
Ann
think
Taylor took an entire team in that house with her. They mapped that house. They 3D'd that house. They did all that Ann needed to do to that house. And she was a little screwed because they did let so much happen in the meat. You know what I mean? The house was no importance to her at that point. They already did all the damage they could possibly do. But she's got what she needs to know if a cleanup actually occurred. And if Moscow PD turned their heads when they saw evidence of a cleanup, we got a problem.
Yeah.
Right. And here's the thing I can almost guarantee you. Somebody said something about an airhead, this and that. I don't think Dylan is. If anything, I think Bethany may be, not to be rude. And that's the one where she'll break completely. It may take a little more for Dylan, but I can promise you, I'll bet anything on it that they will stand in her face and yell at her as to why she did not call 911 to get out.
Yeah. And
Jules,
Jules has a good point here. Jules, I've thought about that myself so many times. How, like Jules says, I know how, she has the issues and the blood not between the upstairs and the third and the second floor coming down the stairs and stuff.
Nowhere.
But then you got to think about it. If he was, whoever was in that room, if they took care of Maddie and Kaylee and it was very concentrated in that little area, because that's not a big room and there's not a lot of splatter at that point, pulling in the floor to step in, how much could you get on the bottom of those shoes to take downstairs with you? So I've had to thought about it in those terms as well, trying to figure it out. Because there's no explanation for a lot of it, but unless you got those shoes really well covered and you know.
But the defense has to watch like how, and I guess what they like how obviously and what they say to because these they're not considered suspects. These are witnesses. So
badger a witness. That's
the prosecution,
true.
Yes.
they're going to say objection, blah blah blah, speaking to whatever it is.
I feel like Ann knows how to do that with a bit of charisma without being a badgering attorney. I get that. And I also expect to see, I do expect this. I expect to see both Dylan and Bethany finding ways, or their attorneys, to keep them off that stand. I expect to see that happening. Okay. And y'all might as well too, because we saw how Bethany reacted already to when we thought there was going to be a preliminary.
I was going to ask you that. Is there a way that them two somehow don't take the stand?
Absolutely. They can work their. Believe me, they're gonna try. I'll put it that way.
So if they don't take the stand, is everything they say still admissible?
That I don't know. That's a good question, Jules. If you can hear me,
they have a deposition. Didn't they use a deposition during the grand jury?
Yeah, more than likely, Eddie, because
I
usually you're
think,
deposed for that kind of stuff, and you'll be
right.
deposed going into trial as well. So yeah,
I really
I
feel
mean,
it.
it'd be hard for them to come back and add stuff to their stories now, right?
Right.
All this time later, they should have gotten clear, and I think that might have been part of the Bethany issue was since there was not a clear statement at all from the PCA except the downloads from Bethany's phone. Then the defense has got to be wondering, well, what does this girl know? What did she see? What did she hear?
Well,
Of
yeah,
course, they're going to want to
yeah.
talk to her and depose her and interview her. They
I
have
just
that
don't
right.
see a way. I just don't see a way how you don't put Dylan on the stand, because the whole PCA is predicated by what was
Oh,
on is on the
Dylan's going on
phones.
stand.
On the
Dylan's going on
phones,
that stand.
what she saw,
Hmm.
what she heard, everything is predicated on that. That's where they built that timeline off of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So for her not to take the
exactly.
stand would actually hurt the prosecution, because
They
how is
don't
the
have a
defense not going
choice
to be
but
able
to
to?
put her on there. You can't
Exactly.
take your star witness and then not bring her in at trial.
Exactly.
You
There's
throw
no
out that
argument, in my
whole
opinion.
PCA at that point.
Yeah.
This
That's right.
witness is uncooperative, will not testify, or we just don't want her to. Whatever the case, they cannot not.
And that's
This
why I
case
asked
can't
if,
go forward without her.
and that's why I asked if it all could be thrown out, because for her not to go up there and be questioned from the defense about everything in that PCA, I just don't see how that's just in any way.
Well, it's
So
not going to happen. She has to go up there.
okay,
Right.
good.
No, she has to go. If the prosecution doesn't call her, the defense will.
She heard it. She saw it. The
Yeah.
timeline's built around it. Her phone has
Because
data on it. I mean,
as the proceedings proceed and we finally get closer to trial, each side will have to turn over their witness list, right? Because they got to cross-examine each other's witnesses and stuff. They got to prepare for that type of stuff. So they have
Right.
to know going into it. Ann already knows most of the states right now witnesses, what they call as experts. She'll probably learn as they go, do other discovery motions and whatnot. But yeah, they don't have a choice but to put Dylan on that stand,
well,
no
I just
matter
don't
what
know if they could possibly say because of trauma that the both
No.
can't take the stand because
No,
of
look here,
trauma.
dude. If they can put
blah, blah.
5-year-old children on a witness stand
no, I
and make
agree.
them describe the abuse, Dylan can get her ass up on that stand and describe what she saw and heard that night.
That's
I
right.
agree.
She'll probably
She's a
try to,
grown ass woman.
but they'll force her to do it. That's just how it works.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for Dylan. I'm sorry. You gotta get up there and face the music, girlfriend, just like the defendant does.
Yeah, and she should want to, if she's friends with these girls, to
Exactly.
To get their family's closure.
That's right.
Exactly. She's still breathing. They're not.
That's right. I agree. Absolutely agree.
I mean, damn, she tattooed their initials on her arm. So.
Right, Mama? Right?
Yeah,
Plus, to be honest with y'all, she was the newest roommate and stuff, so it's not like they were childhood. I mean,
Well,
I'm just
we
saying.
know, but still, you don't. Still, you're not a little girl. We're not going
Well, no, I'm
to
just
treat
saying,
you with
and then
kid
if you
gloves
look-
in a grown-up courtroom.
Yeah.
You know.
And then if I was Ann, what I would do if that was even brought up is bring up what they've been doing since the murders happened, and I'm sure they've been living their lives like nothing. I mean, I know.
No,
one
we
of them
don't know that's
disappeared.
true. No, we don't know that that's true. I mean, these
we don't
girls. Okay, if
Well, they're
innocently,
getting tattoos, right?
well, they got
Well,
a memorial. Hang on now.
memorial.
Hang on.
Just
Let's
saying.
be fair, because we don't know these girls. We don't know what happened that night. We can only speculate. So
Right.
if they're genuine and sincere, they got a couple of little memorial tattoos. So what? A lot of folks I know have them for a lot of people. You stick that shit all over your cars, whatever you want to do. We don't know what these girls have been doing all this time. I'm sure whatever happened in that house, no matter how it went down, was traumatizing, period. It needs to be dealt with. Now, these girls are shady. I'm going to give you that, but we don't know enough. I'm just not going to, I can speculate on that 8-hour gap and that kind of stuff, but what they've been doing and what they're really going through, I don't know.
No, I understand we don't know enough about, them, but I know enough about, the actions that nobody took to call 911 or do anything.
Well, we all
a
do.
5-year-old would do or anything like that. So
That's different.
We-
Just
Yeah,
saying,
we-
like,
but that's still her
what's been
character.
going on since, like, for all we know, the medical records that were locked out could have been therapy sessions that those two have been involved in.
I honestly think they were. I think they were to deal with I think they were evaluations or whatever on the survivors.
I agree.
It's not-
I do agree.
It wasn't about Bryan Kohberger and it wasn't about the deceased.
No.
It was about the two witnesses.
That's what I feel too. And I feel like I said that they've possibly been going through therapy because of this. Because this is, guys, honest to God, I mean, think about how you would react or feel walking into this scene. And I know how what it caused me not being close to the people I've seen and walking into a scene and seeing stuff like this. It gave me PTSD in some senses. To see somebody you know go through this is a completely different mind fuck. Excuse my language, but that's what
Yeah.
it is. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, if it honestly happened
Yeah.
in a crazy way where Dylan just didn't damn well know, the
Right.
guilt she's gonna carry,
Yes.
either way, it's got to be tremendous. Either way, whether you
Right.
are a known mean girl and done something bad, somebody's got some guilt somewhere.
Right. And
Dago,
she's probably got a fear of how she's going to be treated as well. So that's another
Oh
thing.
yeah, I'm sure.
Dago and
But-
Salty.
Yeah,
Can I interject real quick on that point?
certainly.
Yes,
That is assuming that they are indeed not involved. And
Yes.
I know.
they are
Exactly.
victims.
Absolutely.
And
Because like I told you
I'm not
yesterday, if
trying
you
to
took BK out of the
speculate
equation, I
one way
put them
or
in
the
the
other.
equation.
No, that's another side of it,
But-
Eddie. And everybody here, I think, has that little bit of possibility floating around in their minds as well, that there is that possibility. We don't know. But you're right. You are absolutely right. That's assuming that there is no involvement. You're right.
Yeah.
Now, the other real quick point I do want to mention, because it really hasn't been spoken of enough, is we're always hearing about how like an arsonist or a murderer will revisit the scene of the crime to see his handiwork.
Mhm.
So that point has been pounded by repetition into our thought process
Mhm.
surrounding this crime. And we're all looking for Bryan Kohberger to see if he's in any of those images at the vigil.
Right.
So in the same way, it's also true that a criminal will avoid returning to anything that is common or connected to the scene of the crime. Now, what do we have with Dylan and Bethany? Suspiciously, they were not there at the remembrance.
Well, no, I know where you're going, and I've already that's been in my mind for a while. Like, what was the big deal?
Oh,
Why
wow.
did Bethany not want to go back to Idaho? What was the big reason behind that? Why? What did she have a fear of? Is it due to the traumatic event that happened? Was it due to something that she was afraid she would encounter? Was it due to that she just doesn't have any connection to this anymore? I mean, there's multiple reasons, and I know what you're saying, Eddie.
Taken all together, they were the last ones to see the 4 victims alive. They were the 911 callers, so to speak. You know, one of their phones was used for the 911 call, and they were present during that 911 call. They are the housemates in the same residence as the victim.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
they were there, supposedly, during the time of the attack. One of them witnessed the supposed criminal who did this. So
Right.
all that together is something that cannot be overlooked.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yes, I agree.
Because to add what you said, Dago, it could also be that she's scared to get in trouble. That's why she doesn't want to go back. So there's many factors, but
Here's the thing, guys. And a lot of people, I've seen people say that. Think about this though. If they knew that Bethany was some sort of, in my opinion, like a strong accordance to this, like she had something serious to do with this, they'd have went and got her.
Hold on a second.
They wouldn't have waited
How
for
many?
that.
But hold on a second. How many cases have there been where they waited, sometimes a year, 2 years for deleted stuff to get back that would show something different, and then now they arrest somebody else later on. So again,
It does
who knows
happen.
if they have everything from Dylan and Bethany, or if they retrieved everything that might have been deleted. I mean, you never know. So
I got you. I think more that it has something to do with either the trauma of it. She doesn't want nothing to do with that. She's trying to get rid of it, or there's a fear of something or somebody that she's afraid of encountering possibly there, and or with the situation. That's my thought on it. I'm not saying that's fact. It's just my opinion.
Yeah. It's one of the two. She's
Yeah.
either scared to death because of what happened and the
Mhm.
nature of it, or
Yes.
there's other players and she knows. I mean,
That's right. That's my thought
but
right there.
we don't know.
But as far
And
as
that,
we
I'm
know,
not going to. I'm
did
not going to
Bethany see
assume
anything?
that's what happened. I can't let myself assume
we can
that's what's
speculate
going
that all.
on based on rumors I've heard.
That's right. That's right. And we have to be easy with that, because the more we do that, the deeper we get into our own heads and the worse it becomes for us and others. And then that's why I kind of lay back from that stuff and I try not to think about it. Right. I think about it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I think about it, but I try to stay away from some of that because it makes it harder to deal with the things on the surface and see what we can see with our own eyes at this point. We just,
Yeah.
I know this is going to suck, you guys. We all
Even
know
though Jay Loxton didn't bring what the judge wanted of a really great legal argument, doesn't mean Ann Taylor's not on top of the actual
Right.
evidence.
Yes.
Okay, we there's a lot of factors that are going to go into this case, and when you start peeling back the layers, like in, say, for instance, Delphi, can it get that deep here? Yeah, especially if we go 5 years into it. But we got to remember, there wasn't an arrest. Richard Allen was only arrested a year ago. So
Right.
not like he was arrested 5 years ago and 5 years later we're waiting on trial. That's not what's happening. So we need to look at it logically.
That's
So
it. That's the
there's
big thing right there. Yes. We
yeah.
have to use logic with all of this, and we just gotta, because I've been guilty of speculating to the point where I'm driving myself insane about, is this it? Is that it? Is this, because we don't know. And that's gonna drive us nuts. We may have to wait 2 to 3 years. We don't know.
Well, I don't think Bryan, I'm sorry, but if I'm not guilty, I'm not going to sit there 2 to 3 years and wait it out.
I
Y'all better
agree.
get on with the show. The indictment bullshit's over. The IGG is coming down. The judge is trying. I need to get out of here because I'm gonna go crazy in this little box y'all got me in. I'm not willing to sit here all this time if I know I am not guilty. Get it on.
That's how I feel about it. I mean, I don't know what the strategy the
Exactly.
defense has for this, but if it was me, I would want this over yesterday. I really would.
Yeah.
And he
I'm
wanted
not
it.
gonna sit there. I'm not gonna sit there 3 years and sit silent and let y'all battle it out over some ridiculous court filings.
No. Well, listen, he wanted it. He wanted a speedy trial, and what happened? The reason it didn't happen is because they didn't hand over all the information for him to get a fair trial.
No, that's not exactly
what happened.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if it was 100%.
Well, the prosecution hasn't gotten any sanctions from the judge for not turning over discovery on time, like in Vallow case, where Vallow got the death penalty removed because of that very reason.
Right.
So that hasn't happened in this case yet.
And
Taylor also wanted Bryan Kohberger waived his right to a speedy trial, not the state of Idaho.
Right.
I mean, y'all got to look at it for like it is sometimes. He's not getting, if you want to look at a case of somebody getting look, we got this man walking into court in a suit and tie. We are all happy. Then we got Richard Allen over here in dirty ass clothes, shackled head to foot. I mean, head to toe, rolled in like a deathbed man.
Right.
I mean, make me understand why Bryan Kohberger is so special compared to Richard Allen. Allen is accused of killing 2 young girls in the woods.
Right.
I don't care how it happened, ritualistic, dirty old man. Somebody killed those little girls.
Mm-hmm.
Is the right man behind bars? Is he treated fairly? He is not being treated fairly.
No.
And I am a little turned off by the loud people screaming for Kohberger, turning a blind eye to what's going on in Delphi. And by the way, Jules, if you're listening, I really appreciate your latest video drop on Delphi, because I hope, and I told Dago, I hope that sounded the alarm. Because people listen when Jules talks, and I appreciate that video because I've been trying to scream it from the rooftops. Sleuthie's been trying to help me get the word out there, or I've been trying to assist her. Let me just say it, put it that way. That's the wrong way to put that. So, yeah, if y'all want to delve off into a crazy case with a bunch of crazy stuff happening, you're looking at the wrong case, I'm afraid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have 3 cases going on, and I'm hoping because now this is going to trial. So, I mean, it's kind of like beating a dead horse unless something comes up. So
I hope that they don't make us wait 2 to 3 years. I hope that maybe a year max, and I think that's still too long. I'd like to see a quick turnover on this. I just don't see it happening any quicker than that. And yeah, Delphi is horrific, and that was a great video, Jules. It really was.
And I only live an hour away.
You're right. Well,
oh wow, okay.
But just like you're saying, so people are up in arms about this case because of the Delphi case, because you see what's going on in that case. You see how he's being treated. You see the, you
No,
see what's
because
going on.
they've been up in
And then you
arms
look,
about Kohberger.
hold on. Let me
No,
finish.
no,
Let
you
me
got
finish.
that backwards a little bit, though.
Can I
They've been
speak?
up in arms about Kohberger for a long
Can I
time.
speak?
They're just starting to realize what's been going on in Delphi. Some of us
Yeah,
have known for a while.
Indiana's way
I
behind the
didn't say
ball
they
on
haven't though.
Delphi.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that now that everybody's up in arms about Bryan Kohberger, people are starting to see what's going on in Delphi and in the Karen Reed case. So now those are going to get more spotlights. But now you see why people are so focused on the Bryan Kohberger
Well,
case, and they're
I
going
understand
to
it.
take this over to those cases because we see what's going on here, and those cases are even worse. So
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I do. We don't want that to happen here, but it's not happening here. So
But I
we
think
need to calm down.
what it is in effect is that the critical thinking has happened a lot more now than what it was because of Idaho. And it should have happened 6 years ago in Delphi. I'm sorry. You know, in Karen Reed's case, of course, everybody now is critically thinking. I see what you're both saying. And at that point, we're all sitting here like, okay, but the problem is, now I will say this is a problem. There's a lot of conspiracy type theoretical things being put out as far as Idaho they're a little bit far reaching in my opinion, and I don't want to see that happen with these other two cases. I mean, we need to open our eyes to Delphi for sure. It's bad. It's really bad, you guys. And definitely need to have our eyes open for Karen's case too. But the thing is we need to make sure that we're using our heads the right way with this, and we're not going in left and right directions when it's right in front of our face, black and white, and it's there. And, you know, we can't be going, okay, that's too easy. Okay, sometimes easy is the answer. Sometimes it's not. You know, Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck got together and did this. They went on vacation to Florida, came back, and this and that all happened. I mean, sometimes it's not as animated as it seems. Sometimes it is just black and white. Not all of it is. Don't get me wrong, because Delphi is definitely way animated, in my opinion. But there's a lot to it, folks. I'm just saying.
But the reason I think people were more up in arms about this case is because the media was covering it so much. You know, the media was. You know what I mean?
Well,
And
see, the Delphi stuff.
You guys have to be aware that mainstream media, social media is just as bad.
Yes, it is. It very much is. And if you're not,
so we can't sit here and call ourselves we're a higher standard, because sometimes we're not.
That's right.
But I get 98% of the truth from YouTube and 2% from the media. To be honest,
I don't watch the media, and I half of the stuff on YouTube I take with a grain of salt.
Yeah, I'm just saying statistically. You know, if you know what channels to watch, you can find the truth.
I get it. And people want to educate people on it, but everybody's gonna make up their own minds and watch what they want to watch and believe what they want to believe. I'm not out here to be the police on that. I'm just saying that I'm from my point of view, and I'm in a lot of places on social media. I've seen the same behavior on social media that I've seen in mainstream media. And the ones doing it on social media are the ones calling out mainstream media for what they're doing the same thing.
That's why I said we have to be very careful, folks, because we are just as guilty in some senses as have been. I try as hard as I can to not promote misinformation. I try to get base information.
Yeah, and Dago, you know, I've told you we're going to have subjects brought up, and we're going to talk about things, but it's how responsibly do we do that?
That's right. That's right. We have to take it. We can only take it so far, folks, and you have to limit things when you get to an extent where you're going, when I start to stutter around something that I'm talking about, I know that something's wrong with it. Okay. So that's why I try to stop. And I'm like, maybe this is not a good idea to look at this end of things. You know, when we start, and I don't like to talk bad about any creator out there. I don't, and I won't. Some things, though, have been to a point where it doesn't even rational, like it's not rational thinking in some senses. And you have to just back away from that. And you have to go back to the beginning and look at this and go, okay, facts are facts are facts are facts. And talk about that as much as you can. Sometimes it gets boring. I get it. People get bored. They like the drama side of things sometimes. They like the exciting, crazy things that can come into your mind. That's great, folks. But it's so important to keep facts only in this, as compared to the ridicule that we can get sometimes, if you know what I'm saying. So
Yeah. But social media, and I don't know if YouTube considers social media. I don't know if that considers a category. I consider it a category.
Social media.
If you look at the media that reports, especially News Nation, that reported 10 different reports of things with the Bryan Kohberger case that never happened. Now, if that happens on here one time, then the whole thing blows up. It's talked about. The media speaks about it, but yet the media does it all the time. So I understand that there's, and misinformation everywhere, but the media gets it, reports it, and then apologizes later on for being wrong. So they do the same exact thing, and I understand the same exact thing happens here. But here, people are able to have a voice, and you can't have that in the media. The media is going to show you what they want.
Now, and that's why I stress certain things, and D-Daughter's right. I'm included in that. And here's the thing. I give a platform for people to voice their opinions, their theories, their thoughts on it. And what needs to be done in that is you have the right to feel how you feel about anything. You have the right to think what you think about anything. That's your right as a human being. Okay. We have to be able to, how can I put this? There are certain people that, oh, Jesus, I'm trying to think of how to say this. Certain people will take something, even if I sit here all day long and say, everything about my stream today is going to be nothing but pure speculative theory based on things people are hearing based on rumor. Now, if I say that all day long, in my opinion, this is a pure speculative theory. So somebody out there will take that as fact in their mind, run with it, and turn it into something completely different. And that is, we have the problems, guys.
Yeah, I'm not here to change people's minds about where they consume their news, because that's a fight. I don't have a dog in that hunt, and I'm not, I don't pay attention to the news. Honestly, I don't even watch the local news. I don't care. I don't.
Absolutely. Take care, Rock. Thank you for being here today. So that's the only thing I'm saying, guys, is we got to be careful with stuff like that, because that has happened a lot. It hasn't happened as much with Delphi or with Karen's case. Idaho has been the worst case I've ever seen of that. It happened a little bit with Kylie Rodney and a little bit with Summer Wells, but Idaho, it's exploded from the inside out with nothing but stuff. And it's caused just a lot of bad things to happen through YouTube in that sense. And
all of this wasn't out when Casey Anthony and OJ, we had TV, and they were televised. I mean, from start to finish. Yes. And so you add a lot more, and there was a lot for 2 years that went on with Casey Anthony. It was all out in the public, and the girl still got a fair trial. By the way, was found not guilty. But anyway, so you gotta, you just gotta learn that you just have to take a lot of this stuff in for what it actually is, and we can't be out to change everybody's mind and tell them what to watch. I'm not about to tell somebody where to go get their news from. That's on them. I can't make somebody like Dayo said, he can tell them 1,000 times speculation, but they're going to go somewhere else later and tell them it's fact.
That's right.
And there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, that's why it's up to everybody to take everything in and dig through the bullshit and find the facts. That's what you have to do. That's what you have to do today.
And here's the thing, though, Willie. I'm glad you said that, and there's a reason why. You're right. You are 1,000,000% right. It's up to us adults to be able to take everything in and separate the good from the bad, the right from the wrong, and the crazy from the normal. Okay, that's perfect. The problem is not everybody can do that. Okay, not everybody's minds works the same way. And there are people that want to see it on that other side, opposing the factual side, if you know what I'm trying to say, because it's more interesting, it's more exciting. Therefore, they go that direction. Just because it's more interesting and more exciting doesn't mean it's real or right.
But that's fine. But people are getting but people are getting more angry with facts rather than what's being reported, Dago. We're seeing it specifically in the Karen Reed case, where it took how long and her lawyers to bring up 3 key pieces of information that nobody knew. Nobody knew because it was never handed over, and
Right.
us as the public would have never known that if it wasn't for a televised
Right.
trial.
I
And
get it.
to me, so yes, you take that case, and then you have that information in your head. You bring it over to this case, and you say, well, hey, could they possibly have something that they're not handing over? Does defense have something that we don't know? So people are allowed to question it because, again,
Yeah.
if they're not giving all the information, we have.
Well, she got the information, or she wouldn't have known about it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
And
but
she did
they had to.
herself.
Yeah, but they had to go through hell and high water to get the
Well, that's
information.
normal.
And then once the public voices their opinion in the defense's side, the prosecution goes right for a gag order. But the prosecution can smear anybody they want all over the media, and that's perfectly fine. And that's what I don't understand, why it's not equal on both sides. Where
Oh, it is. Are you on Twitter? Are you
It's not.
active on Twitter? And I'm not.
Yeah.
I apologize. I'm not trying to be abrasive. I like
No,
debates.
no,
I don't get offended easily. So
Me neither.
yeah, good. Then we're going to be a great debate team.
Yeah, no, we're just talking here.
People go really hard on Twitter to try to counteract the shit that like Coffindoffer and stuff put out, right? And all the more power to them. So people need to be aware there are a lot of people out there who are trying to get the word out, that social media, the mainstream media is telling you one thing about this guy and this, don't buy into it. Please have an open mind, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So there is a balancing act going on. And I think this case got so theatrical really quick because of the nature of what it was. Then you got the weird PCA and the weird Dylan, and then boom, here comes a certain somebody and a bunch of rumors, and whoa, here we are.
But would you agree that if there was one piece of physical or concrete evidence in that PCA, that there wouldn't be all this?
Well, it's a PCA, so they have to have more at trial. We wouldn't need trials in this country if we base everything on a PCA.
Yes, and I've heard the argument before, but we've seen yesterday that 6 individuals asked for more evidence, and they said no.
Did you the context? So, okay, well,
I'm just saying. Well, I'm just going by.
I get what you're saying, but what we have to wonder is, were they under the 6 juror thing? Were they like in deliberation and asked about more stuff? We don't really understand the context behind that. And if I'm a juror and I'm telling you I need more, I'm not about to go in there and vote for an indictment. But they did. Because they were under Idaho instructions, just like Florida, probable cause for a grand jury.
True. But again,
quick, nothing half-assed. This isn't Annie. I know they're a lot alike. This is Salty Sleuth.
Who's Annie?
Yeah, somebody was asking that. I don't find you abrasive at all. I don't know. I mean, that's just me. I just think that you, just like Willie, speak how you feel, and that's that. You know what I mean?
I'm just passionate, and I'm Greek, and I'm loud. That's all.
No, you're good, dude. You're good as long as you don't take it personally.
I don't know.
They're both great.
I have a horse in the race, so
I like having panels like this because it gets things said that people are afraid to speak on sometimes, and we shouldn't be afraid to speak because we're afraid to upset somebody else. And we can do this, guys. This channel is very well known for this. It's supposed to be. We can do this, and at the end of the day, when everything's all said and done, say that was great. Thanks for doing that. Have a great day. Shake hands and walk away. That's the way it's supposed to be.
And we go back to our normal lives, and that's it.
Exactly.
But people take this as we're arguing and want to feed into it, but it's just literally conversation.
Yeah, because I can flip from prosecutor to defense attorney in like 2 seconds. So it's totally,
horse in the race. I don't care if he's. I don't care if these people are guilty or not. I just want justice to be served for the family.
Exactly.
That's it.
I understand.
Or you say stuff that some of us don't know how to put into words.
That's it,
like
dude.
Me. A lot of times I don't know how to say it. I want to say it, but I don't know how. And then you guys come along and just say it for me. So I just sit here quiet.
Guys, if you guys get, I agree with that, Brian. I love Salty's accent too. It does give it a little more colorfulness. I love it.
Well, thank you. I'm a Southern girl.
That's it. It's okay to disagree, guys. It's okay to have differences of opinion and differences in the way we feel. The thing is to not take it personal. It's not a personal thing. None of this is personal. We can all.
If we all start up here and agree, to be boring.
every 278 of us in here, if we wanted to, we'd argue through this all damn day and still go to the bar at the end of the day and have a great time together. That's how that works, folks. It's not.
Yeah.
None of this is personal with any of
And
us.
I always have to say this, and because when Dago, when you were joking with me yesterday in chat, people,
Okay.
you know, I honestly can see how BK could be guilty, but I can also see how he's innocent. I am 50-50. I do not know.
Right.
Right. No one's going to make up my mind for me, no matter what you tell me, because I've got to see that evidence.
Yeah.
I can't tell you this guy is innocent. I cannot tell you he's guilty. I can tell you there seems to be probable cause. And we got that, you know, that damn pesky ass sheet that won't seem to go away.
Yeah.
Right.
And I will be
So
honest with you,
there's
Dago, like at first, I really didn't care as far as the BK case goes. But now with seeing everything and, you know, just how I'm interpreting the whole, you know, juror not being shown this and that and all the kind of stuff behind it, it is a little personal for me because, you know, in factuality, I did know him. So,
I get it.
you know what I mean? So it is a little personal on that side. But the other two cases, you know, I don't, you know, whatever. But to see, you know, what's going on in the BK case, that's why maybe I'm just a little more, you know.
Well, and I get
I'll
that
say
because
whatever I, you know, what I feel.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people
You got
won't.
that right. You do. You have that right because you have that connection there. And I've thought about this because I don't say this because I need sympathy. I have lost a child, so I understand where these parents come from, and I don't go after them in any kind of way because they all gonna handle it their own way. So,
Sure.
but I have to check my emotions at the door when I walk in that courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I had to check them when I walked into the Casey Anthony court. And I'm gonna tell you, I walked in because I watched it on TV. I'm in Florida. I spent 2 years of my life consumed with Casey Anthony. Now we're at trial. I watched that whole thing with intense watch. You know what I'm saying?
Same here.
Yeah.
Her father, Casey's father, worked with my uncle and people I know in Trumbull County Sheriff's Department, and I knew who he was as a person. And therefore, watching that, I was like, I don't know about this and I don't know about that. And I did take it kind of personal. I get that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to.
I guess it angers me because like it made me forget who he was watching the media speak about him. And I couldn't imagine people who don't know anything about him watching the media that can't resort back to who he really was and how they were painting him out to be as his childhood, as a bully and all that kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
so, you know, I take that a little personal from how they reported on it. And, you know, it's
right
that you know his mom and you had to care for his mother and knowing that his mother's going through.
Everybody knew his mom. Yeah, she worked at the school. I mean, everybody.
Well, you saw a different side of this guy than any of us are being presented.
But that's what I mean. But I'm also at the point where if you show me that he did it, listen, he did it. I'm not going to sit here and, you know, be an advocate if you show me that there's proof.
Right.
You know
But
what I mean?
what we got to stop trying to do though is sitting here on YouTube demanding the prosecution show us, because they will if they have it at trial.
That's right.
Yeah, but the thing is I think the prosecution has given everything to obviously the defense has everything. Would you agree?
Yeah, there's the IGG stuff that he's going to make a ruling on, and anything that comes down the pipe between now and trial, there's going to be a discovery motion on. Every time that the prosecution gets a return on any type of evidence, it's turned. You know, they file their thing. Then the defense does their thing and they file a motion. It's par for the course.
But we're getting an idea of what the prosecution is going to present by the motions that defense is filing. And if you look at what the defense is filing, the defense hasn't filed on anything that we haven't known about. Correct?
Yeah, you're right.
So for people to say they have all this other damning information, why isn't Anne filing motions on anything else, but she's just specifically filing it on what the
because what they only the only thing they honestly have in Idaho against Bryan Kohberger that we do know of is a bunch of car video footage, some phone ping stuff, and that sheet. And that's really all Anne has asked for evidentiary wise, except for some training reports and this and that. It's like she nitpicked at the grand jury, and I don't mean to use that word that's going to come out across as it's going to get worded wrong and said wrong. But she has took apart the grand jury stuff. Was there anything here that I can get that, you know, use? So let me go look now at these training of these officers. She's reviewed it by now. So we haven't heard any more about that in the filings. So I'm assuming everything looked good to her. Oh, nothing I can do with this. I don't know. She might come out in court and say, well, and question their training when they're on the stand. So we don't know what all, you
But that's
know,
what I mean. We
they
know
better have better clear
she filed a
footage.
motion. She also filed, regarding that there's a total lack of DNA evidence in the car,
Yeah.
apartment, and his office. So again, she's put there's information out there regarding what she's fighting, and I haven't seen anything that she's fighting that we don't know about. And in my opinion, and
Right.
people can have different opinions, I don't care, is they don't have a ton more evidence that they're going to present during trial. They're going to take what we that we know so far and paint that picture for a jury of circumstantial evidence. That's what they're going to do, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I mean, so if all they can't have much, if there's not a ton of evidence in the house, DNA wise, footprint wise, trail wise, whatever you want to say it, how you want to word it. If all they have is a bunch of car video, phone data, and a sheet. So now, do they have better footage that we don't know about yet? I hope so, because they can't prove to me yet that car parked and went into that house. The person went into the house.
That's right.
I can see because when everybody spent those endless hours on Linda Lane, I'm watching that white car in the left-hand corner because my heart literally sank when I saw that car come around that corner.
Yep.
What was that? What the hell's going on over here? And I need to know more about what's actually going on over there, because that's what the PCA was telling me was happening. So
Right,
now
and
I need to know how you see that. How do you know once it goes behind Linda Lane, did it park? Did they go in the building? Did they live there? What did that car do after that?
Right. And then like today, for instance, there was a video
That
put out.
proves nothing. Right.
That's back. Yeah. And then there's another video that was put out this morning that I saw about another white car, a Dodge. I think it was a 300 or something. It makes you go, where was that one at? When did this happen? Does that fit in here now? So that's how this all ends up happening, like it does, you guys. And it makes sense. And that's what we as critical thinkers do, is we ask questions. We think about things. We look at everything we can to try to make things make sense to us. Because none of this is made. We know that.
That's why I quoted law-abiding citizen yesterday. Is it's not about what you know; it's about what you can prove in court. So now they have to prove that that white car on video is him driving that car.
That's
so it's okay to comb over the stuff and make your own decision or opinion on it, because you have to. I mean, but to me, I looked at that footage. I saw two things.
Logically, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I saw two things in that footage, and I look at it now from the defense's standpoint, because Ann now has to cast reasonable doubt in a jury. And what I saw on that couple minutes or hours, whatever, of Linda Lane footage is a lost DoorDash driver, and this is what she can argue, a lost DoorDash driver, and an individual who walked from the right-hand side over down the alley leading towards where the murders occurred, and then walked back a little longer later on and got into a vehicle that drove away. So it's putting more people, the person that Dylan called, the 3 unidentified DNAs, all that stuff that she can use as reasonable doubt is what I'm looking at now.
The DoorDash driver, I need to know what color that car was he drove, because I'm going to tell y'all right now, is DoorDash, they know exactly what car that person was driving. They know exactly when that order was dropped off. If it was a hand it to me or leave it at my door, they know exactly when the person drove off out of that driveway. They know it on the DoorDash app. If that person ended dash when they left that residence, DoorDash has a record of all of that. If it was a lost DoorDash driver, I'm a DoorDash driver, so I can see it, legit see it. But I need to know what color car and kind of car that guy drove to rule out that was him back there lost. And if Santa was notorious for ordering DoorDash, I know which houses I go to a lot, and I know which ones are about to give me the wrong address. I'm just saying.
And if that was and I said this a while back when that was brought up before about a lost DoorDash driver. Let's put it this way then. If that DoorDash driver was regular to that area, and I know that's a confusing area back there. Don't get me wrong. I know that the King Queen Road address thing is a big deal that it causes confusion all the time. I get that. But if it's a regular driver, like Salty just said, that does this on a regular basis, they know where to go, how to get there, and which way you need to get in to get there. If it was a new driver, that's understandable. Yes, they could get lost, turn around a few times, come back, look for the right address, boom, boom, boom. That makes sense. And those are the questions that need answered, like she said, along with what color was the car, what type of car, who was the person, was he new or what he or she knew? You know what I mean? Those are the things that need to be answered before you can make a judgment based on that scenario.
And
right
I'm
there.
sure that I feel like, okay, they've already ruled out the DoorDash driver and the car.
Right,
And
right.
I honestly think that 112, the neighbors there at 1112, that car sees the intersection of Queen and King. It knows exactly. I feel like that white sedan and that DoorDash driver may have passed each other at one point.
Yes, very possible.
Because if DoorDash is dropping off an order at 4-ish, that car's coming into the neighborhood for the third pass at 4:04. Did the suspect one vehicle then freak out because he sees something, drives on down to Queen Road, does this crazy shit in the parking lot, and goes back? Is the
Well, hold
coast
on a
clear?
second.
I don't know.
That should be on video. I mean, going by those
Well,
cameras showing the pumpkins and whatever and saying
it will
that,
be on
you know,
video. It
it'll be
is.
on
They
video,
have
correct?
it.
We're not
Yes,
going to see that till trial.
Not
So
till
we'll see it.
trial.
If we see
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, 1112 sees what went on at that intersection, and Linda Lane sees what went on behind Queen Road Apartments. But tell me how they know that car attempted to turn around or park in front of the residence. How do you know that?
I don't know.
Where's that camera?
Again, I don't know. But
There-
if it shows it dropping off the food and then proceeding down and turning around.
No.
to
The
head out.
PCA. The PCA says suspect vehicle 1 attempts to turn around or park in front of the residence. How do they know? 1112 cannot see the front of the residence. Linda Lane, that we've all viewed, cannot see the front of the residence. How do they know what the car did in front of the residence? I can't get past that. I'm stuck on it. How does Kaylee's sister see Maddie and Kaylee come out that door at 10 p.m. to leave for the night? How does she see them return in the ride share? I see they got it on the camera at the corner of the house. I know that. But how does she know they came back into that house and walked Murphy? How do you see that? Where's that camera?
I don't know.
Does it exist? I mean, what's going on there? I don't know. I get it. They can see it on the 1112 and you see the turnaround and all that, and the Linda Lane. But how do you know what went down in front of that house? I need to know more about that.
Well, I thought that the camera showing those pumpkins is a camera that would show everything that happened in front of the house.
What are you talking about? What pumpkins?
There was a still.
He's talking about the house next door that had the white railing with the little pumpkins sitting on it. That's right directly next door.
But that does not face the front of 1122.
Faces the other direction. See, the
That
camera
faces the King and Queen Road intersection.
Gotcha.
Coming into the neighborhood.
That is the one directly across the street from the house. There's cameras there. Those have not been brought out in front.
We've looked high and low for those cameras. We've asked the grounds on the boots on the grounds. I'm sorry to say that backwards, to look for these cameras. We've discussed those camera options. We've been all over the maps looking at there. Yeah, we think there's cameras.
When Rory was in Moscow, we found the cameras across the street. Now I can guarantee you, I can promise you, because he went and found them. We asked him specifically. I was live with him when he found the cameras. They're there. It's being recorded on those cameras. That's not going to be seen by us right now.
Oh, hell no.
But the defense knows about it.
I can promise you that.
Yes, the defense knows. The defense. All right, two hearings ago, Ann Taylor stood in court before the judge, and she literally said with her, and I'm not, this is her words, I have everything on the car except the date you changed the year, the FBI report that changed the year. The judge, she had to file a TUI report to get it, and she got it.
That's
okay.
Right.
So don't think that the judge is not giving her some of the stuff she wants from the FBI.
Yeah, and she stated, I've heard her say it, folks, a couple different times. They're giving me about the prosecution. They're giving us everything they're supposed to. Now,
and they're not hiding anything, she said.
That's right. And here's the thing, though. The only thing that may be happening that I've gathered is that somewhere out there, law enforcement may not be handing over everything to prosecution in some sense, is what she may be looking for. But
no, everything she's literally asked for is to do with the FBI.
Yeah, right. So
and this grand jury stuff.
It's not, and the FBI has stated they don't have certain things. They can't give it to us They don't have it. So that's where it's coming from in some senses, okay? But yeah, the prosecution is definitely handing it over. She said that herself, and I was actually surprised when I heard that. Now we're waiting on whatever the FBI has that they're not giving, and it could be because, one, they don't have it. They've said that. Two, for whatever reason, they don't want to. And I've already talked about why that's possible, because we all know in some sense they said not to use certain things. If they don't have anything for that, that's why they're not going to hand it over. That's why they may have said don't use this. So again, at the same time, it's not the prosecution, guys. It's coming. Like I said, it's come down to the point where, like Sylvie said, everything she's asking for is FBI. So that's what we're looking at. That's all we're waiting on, honestly. If it never happens, it never happens. If they don't have it, they won't give it. And if they don't want us to have it, they're not going to give it. That's just how that works. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that.
Sorry, I had to step away for a second. I had to go wrangle a kid.
You're okay. You're fine. That's how I see that as being said. Eddie, it's been a minute, buddy. Are you still there?
I'm still here.
Okay.
Before I hop out,
go ahead and add to this, bud.
I don't know if I can add to where we're at right now in the discussion, but before I hop out, I just want to kind of point out and put things in perspective as far as how things went yesterday from the dismissal hearing.
Please do.
And maybe, interject some hope. It seems, many of us kind of came away from that a bit downcast yesterday, but should probably just remember and recall everybody that before this motion to dismiss the grand jury indictment, we didn't have our hopes up or any expectations of a dismissal. So really nothing at all has changed for us.
Right. That's a fact. That's a fact.
The angry mob seems to have been celebrating as though there was a conviction yesterday.
I know.
But early on, back when it was daring to speculate Bryan may be possibly innocent or even being framed due to the many suspicious things in the investigation that were visible to us, people speaking outwardly about his innocence would be challenged as to why they think that. And they, many times we heard way back then is the PCA contains only a small percentage of evidence, and wait until these search warrants returns from the apartment, the house, the Elantra come back, because it's going to show, this victim's DNA in the car, possibly, for example. And it never did. And then their point of view turned from, well, the PCA contains a little more than a small amount of the evidence. Maybe it's 80 or 90%. And now, after yesterday, we learned, and I think Willie pointed this out yesterday, that the grand jury members, 6 of them, wanted to have more evidence. And it seems like the prosecution has shown that their evidence is extremely limited. It's likely the PCA is the extent of it.
And that was without opposition. But they wanted to see more evidence. That's what I find crazy.
Well, I do agree with that. And I'll have to say, I never expected a ton of evidence to come out of this apartment or home or car. Honestly, I didn't. Especially for real. If you think about it like I'm about to, because I'm not telling y'all this guy's guilty. I'm honest to God not. If he's the guy, this guy has a lot of knowledge that we do not have.
I agree.
He did everything right, except accidentally leave that sheath. Just pretend for a second he's your guy. That was never supposed to happen. It was a total freaking mistake. That changed everything. If it wasn't for that sheath, he wouldn't be sitting in jail right now.
Exactly.
Okay. He did everything right if he's that smart and he's the guy. So I did not expect that car to be full of evidence, because he's not going to leave it full of evidence. He's not that stupid.
So But again,
Just imagine
if I
never
broke
been
it,
found.
if I broke it
Before I
down
hop-
and asked you questions on
before I hop
how
down, I'll
he
just-
didn't leave evidence, it would be
Let,
very tough
go
to
ahead. Let
explain.
Eddie finish. I'm sorry,
I'll
I didn't
just
mean to
complete
interrupt
my-
you. Go ahead.
Before we get
Sorry,
off on the sheep tangent, I'll just complete my thought and then hop out. But
Okay, buddy.
So I really think that this should go to trial. I think it could possibly be in Bryan's best interest if that is the state's entire case. It will really be interesting to see what that looks like with all their evidence.
I agree.
Also, I think the good news is that they would have never been able to indict unless they used the grand jury. If they went, a different route with not the grand jury, but the pardon me, I'm stumped as to the preliminary hearing. They wouldn't have been able to get this indictment unless they used that grand jury. So that speaks volumes. So I'll leave you all with that.
I agree, and I appreciate you, buddy. I feel the same way. I think they knew that, and that's why they took that right off the get. And I agree with you, and I wholeheartedly believe this does need to go to trial. That way, for both sides, in my opinion. That way, the entire truth and the whole truth comes out.
It's going to trial unless this guy cops a plea. There's no way around it. You got to go to trial.
Right, and I don't see him. I don't see him doing that at all.
No, not at all.
Unless they get the right guy in the meantime.
I mean, if there's somebody else that gets arrested by some chance, that's going to blow the top off of this completely.
Yeah.
And we know that. But, at this point, if it doesn't go to trial, it's just, we're never going to know.
There's no way it can't go to trial. The only way it's not going to trial is if Bryan Kohberger takes a plea deal.
Yeah.
There's no way out of it. You can't just say, oh, well, we know what? We're just going to be done here. Goodbye. That's not how it works. We have to go to trial. The only way to avoid a trial is a plea bargain.
Right. That's fact. And like I said, standing silent and all the things that they've done thus far with their strategy, he's not going to take a plea, folks. I can't see that happening. I'm sorry. That's my opinion.
No, there's no plea involved,
Especially with what he just said, if that's all the evidence they have.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know I would. I'd be like, okay, let's go.
One thing that bugs me, and I have to say, because I agree with Salty on this a lot. I don't understand why. If I feel like Bryan has shown a lot of confidence towards his innocence. Okay. If he really feels like he's innocent, and he is innocent in that sense, what is he waiting? Like, why is he not speaking out in a sense? I don't know if it's part of their strategy or what, but it just kind of makes me think, like, what is the deal, dude? Why aren't you saying this? Why aren't you saying that?
Because if they get a conviction, if they get a conviction and he's found guilty, the appeals are there. You know what I mean? It's his for the taking, and that's why a lot of it's being done procedurally with the standing silent and all that. But I'm with you on it. I don't. There's just.
But he's number one, he's a criminology teacher's assistant, so he knows not to say anything. Plus, I'm sure Ann's saying, hey, don't say nothing, because anything you say is going to be twisted and taken out of context. Just like him looking up and smirking a little bit, they ripped him apart for that. So even if he did say something, they're going to,
Well, see, in Idaho, in Florida, we have what's called no contest. And people take advantage of it all the time. You don't got to plead guilty or innocent. You plead no contest. Now, Lori Vallow also stood silent. Is this an Idaho thing because of their appeals process? Do you know what I mean? So we have to look at it in those terms, not just, oh, this guy's standing silent. He's this, he's that, whatever. We can speculate all damn day. But procedurally, for the legal reasons, and I don't agree with it, but they did it for a reason. I'm like, I'm not guilty. You know what I mean? I'm screaming it. I'm not guilty, but. So I don't understand, the judge entered the plea. I don't get the difference between the guy and the judge doing it, but whatever. It's Idaho law shit, but yeah.
From what I understand, him doing that detaches him completely from this. It takes any involvement away from it, and that's what the statement is that possibly he was trying to make. So that's my
I don't think standing silent is an unusual thing in Idaho on a death penalty case.
No, because we have no contest here as well, and it's either guilty, not guilty, or no contest. And the judge would,
but then also having somebody in custody and then finding the correct person later on is nothing new either, because it happened in the Gainesville Ripper case where 5 high school or
It could be
college.
happening in Delphi right now. Those
Yeah,
attorneys came
absolutely.
out and gave you a whole other scenario and named names. Bring it,
Yeah.
Ann.
yes, that's right.
Bring me that alternate scenario frat fight that happened and name me some names that aren't rumors.
Maybe they need to hire Ann over in Delphi. See what happens there.
Right? But those
Does anybody
attorneys,
know how long ago Richard Allen was actually seen? Does anybody know the exact number of days?
yeah, it
The
was
last-
at the end of September when he had his last court hearing. This court hearing, they didn't even bring him in the courtroom. And yesterday, a few days ago, the judges or the attorneys filed to keep their jobs, and 4 hours later, they recused themselves. One of them did it verbally. One was claimed to be filing a filing. So the judge comes back in the courtroom. Oh, no, nothing to see here. We don't have attorneys now. Then the attorney comes back a few days later, yesterday, files another document claiming he's still the attorney, and I want this judge disqualified. She comes back this morning and she's like, you're off the case, and I'm not even going to acknowledge you filed that.
Wow.
So tell me again how Judge is unfair. I'm saying.
I didn't say no way is he unfair.
No, I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you directly.
Yeah.
I'm just making a blanket statement there.
This guy is not getting a fair shot. Plus, me and Doug were talking about this. If you take a side-by-side shot of him from 11 months ago until now, I mean, Bryan kind of looks the same. This guy looks like he's
better.
Yeah,
Bryan
it's
looks
horrible. And when you
Um,
got 2 Odinite prison guards guarding you, I mean, what do you expect? Are they drugging him? Are they beating him? What are they doing?
right. That judge, when she was, not to change the subject, but well, really not. The judge in Delphi, I noticed when she was talking to the last hearing, when the attorneys recused themselves or whatever, recused themselves, something was off with her there. Okay. And I said it then, and it's like, something's not right with this. And for her to do that, what you just said, like, that says to me right there, she needs to be, they need to get rid of her, like, period. End of story.
Yeah. And she's she's a special appointed judge. They've already had one judge recuse himself in this case.
Yep.
And somebody took their own life too. I heard involving this case. This
That
is wild.
That is a person. That involved the crime scene leaked photos.
Yeah.
Because someone took them from the defense's office and leaked them to the Murder Sheet podcast, and one of the 3 players involved did take his own life.
So I guess my question to all this is, why all this? And I don't want to say it to sound heinous, but why all this for 2 little girls? Unless it's not for the reasoning of who actually did this.
Because
it's for the reasoning of who actually did this. Because the FBI, when they came into the case and did their investigation, they literally gave them a report from the FBI called the Odinist report, and they told them this appears to be ritualistic in nature. You know what they did over there in Indiana? Oh, really? No. We're going to put this on the bottom of these pages, and we don't need y'all anymore, FBI. We're good here. FBI's like, okay, dust their hands and they go away.
The first report I remember hearing about any of this was that they were laid in some brush. And to me, putting horns above somebody's head ain't no brush.
Well, no, and there's, you really have to deep dive those documents. The horns may or may not be true. A lot of the other stuff, the F on the tree. And I know, and I'm right there with you. I'm only stating this about the horns, alleged horns, and the F on the tree. Those 2 things are sketchy. Everything else is not. So did something happen out there? Was it somebody who thought they were a real Odinist heathen and their shit went totally wrong? And they're like rogue players. Now I'm wondering if these prison guards were allowed to wear their Odinist patches all this time until a month ago, when they were ordered to remove them once the defense brought it to light it was happening.
Right.
So how many people in that town are involved in law enforcement that are actually also Odinists?
That we don't know how exactly.
That's the thing that I was going to say, is that there are some much more important people involved in this than what we know.
You damn right. I got a bad feeling.
I do too. That's the problem with this. That's why things have been swept under the rug. That's why it took 6 years for this to come out. That's why all of this has become such an issue right now.
And now that the defense has brought these issues to light, you're going to remove them from the case?
Right. That's what the big deal is with this, Willie, and that's why it's such a big thing now, because like I said, if it came out, there's some very important people that are involved, and that's a problem right there. Okay.
Yeah. That's why, and that's why it makes me just sick, because I see this and I'm sorry, but I see blatantly what's going on in the Karen Reed case, and they're covering for police officers. I get that. Okay, that happens all the time. But this I couldn't understand, because I didn't know the relevance of these two girls. Now that you're saying how many years it took and who could be involved, now it makes sense. I just don't like all the cover up, instead of the justice for the family should be above everything else. Not saving somebody's career, not this, not that, not covering for somebody. Justice for the family should be at the top of the list. But yet you got judges that are this, judges that are that, and nobody's taking. And I'm not seeing any of that. I'm not seeing true justice anywhere in any of these two cases, excluding the BK case.
It's not just those other two. There's quite a few other ones too.
No, I know, but I'm saying the ones that I know about,
Listen, if you go back and look at Kylie Rodney, if you look at quite a few other cases, it's been happening all over the place, buddy, and it's just a thing. You know what I mean? Important people are important for a reason, and those important people have to stay important. Okay, so to do that, things have to happen, things have to be done, and they have.
Well, if they're part of this ODENism, they're going to protect.
Absolutely.
They're going to protect that, especially if these are some rogue players that just they don't want that shine on them.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
So
I just don't like that there's nobody to hold the people that we look upon, to hold people accountable, to hold those people accountable.
Let me go. I want to make something clear. I'm not bashing Odinist or paganism. That's something I'm very well schooled in.
No, not at all.
The players I'm talking about, the heathens, are totally different. If y'all look it up, they are exactly. Go listen to Patrick Westfall's interview. I'll have to get Dago the link to share that with you guys. He is one of the players named in the affidavit that the defense dropped about the Odinism. He tells you all about their brand of Odinism. Okay, it's very different than I'm not going after pagans. I promise you that. I practice a lot of stuff that is considered paganism. So I'm not here to defend paganism or down it. I'm just telling you what. These are rogue players involved who didn't know what the hell they were doing, is my opinion on it. You can take a craft and a spirituality and you can turn it on a dime to what you want. Okay, there's good and there's evil, there's light and there's dark. It depends on you which way you walk. They're not all dark. And I just want to clarify that I do understand the difference.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Like I said, when I talked about it, I feel like somebody took Odinism and paganism and twisted it and made it into something that it's not supposed to be. That was
it's called the heathens. If you look it up, literally, and BH's wife has a big old heathens tattoo.
I saw that.
That's an actual part of it, and I'm not saying, I'm not here to judge them. I don't care what you do in your free time. Don't go killing little girls in the woods over it, though. But it is what it is.
Well,
I don't know if I don't know that it's Odinism, but it's sketchy that the FBI came out with this report. Then you had a Purdue professor tell you the same thing that you conveniently forgot the name of, and then Danger and I found the name, and then y'all found it after we did. We should have called y'all and told you who the hell it was, because then you come out, oh yeah, now we remember, and yeah, he did say Odinism. Yeah. What? It's like what?
I can't believe they put that in the report.
Yeah,
they actually put that in, and then it was denied, and I was like, "Wait, what?" I don't know.
Jules is right. It could be someone who staged it, who is aware of what goes on around there, right? They could have staged it to look like that. Very well could have. It's just you got to get to the bottom of it either way.
Well, going back to what you said, and I want to touch on that because I find it pretty disgusting, is you said prison guards, and it should be correctional officers.
It is. Let me rephrase that. The correct term is correctional officers.
Well, no, he's in a prison. So you're right. That's what I'm saying. Yes. He's in a prison right now.
Yes, he got
He's in a
transferred to
correctional
prison a month
facility.
after arrest. Yes,
Without
they
conviction.
legally they claim they did it for safekeeping is the term they're using it for. So he got sent to Westville a month after his arrest for safekeeping, and we all know what happens to kid killers in prison. So tell me how that's safekeeping.
Exactly.
And then
My
you're going to
thing
put two
is,
people. Go ahead, Mama.
my thing is, so where he's at in Westville is 66 miles north of Delphi. There are closer correctional facilities than that. So
Is there
why?
really? I was curious about that. And the judge denied the first motion to get him
Right.
moved, and then they did an emergency motion after the defense dropped the Otism papers. They filed another emergency motion, and she didn't even set a court date for it before she took them off the case. So he's
Yeah.
still in limbo. We don't even have a court date for any. I'm sorry, it's an emergency hearing. Not think about this and let us know, Judge. It's an emergency order. How long technically do you have for an emergency order? What's the point of it being an emergency if you can't get an immediate hearing?
Exactly.
Yeah, and then again, like I said, the whole thought process behind sending him to prison to protect him makes no sense to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's idiotic.
Not when you send him to the place where you already got two Odinist guards
Right.
working. How convenient. Now
Yeah,
let's
I
get
mean,
some confessions out of this guy. And they did.
they're
Everybody,
crazy.
I had someone told me, well, they got a confession. Yeah, they do. So what? Do you know how many men and women are sitting in prison right now on coerced confessions?
Hmm.
And this
They-
guy's going to
Well, they
ask his
said they were
attorneys
based on
every
him
time
or
I see
something.
them. Yeah, every time he saw his attorneys, he had to ask them, is my wife, the first thing out of that man's mouth is my wife and my child okay? And
and
there's another inmate that wrote a letter to the warden telling him they're threatening Richard Allen. They're forcing him to say and do this to confess to his wife.
Wow.
They're threatening his family.
And they listened
every
in on the
every
lawyer
interaction,
talk.
every interaction he had with his attorney, anything
They-
he
Yeah.
did, use my phrasing, taking a shit, throwing up, taking a shower, it was filmed and recorded.
Unreal.
Yes.
Cameras on him the whole time. But I mean, that's his human rights, folks. They've taken that away from him too. They're saying that he refuses to eat. I probably wouldn't eat either if I had that fear in me. I'd be the fear
Well,
of
if you were
being poisoned.
drugged and didn't know what was going on, would you even have an
That's
appetite?
true. And if you watch him walk in and out of the courtroom, he's being walked side by side with guards on either side of him, not to protect him, to hold him up, folks.
Hold him up.
He's got a
He's
dead
lethargic. Yeah.
Well, that's why I asked if anybody saw him the other day because
No.
I know what you're
I
Bob
saying.
believe
Mata
he's
was
still
there.
here.
Yeah, Bob Mata was there, and they never brought Alan into the courtroom. And when the judge finally come into the courtroom, she said, I've already transferred Mr. Allen back to Westville Prison.
Yeah.
So Bob said that his wife and mother were sitting directly in front of him, and they
Yep.
were both very upset, which upset him. He's a defense attorney, but he's also a very compassionate person. And
Bob's a great guy.
so, yeah, and Bob's doing great work on Delphi. If you guys want to get caught up on the latest in Delphi, and he dropped one this morning concerning the new documents. So
Yeah, go
it's a
check him
good
out,
place
guys.
to,
I haven't said it a lot, guys. If we can drop Bob's link in here, please. I follow Bob. I watch him for a long time. He's very down to earth for an attorney. That's why I love it, because he puts it out there so that it's understandable for everybody, the things that are said.
Yeah.
He's a great dude. He really is amazing. So drop his link, guys. Go check him out. Show some love. First of all, subscribe to his channel. Him and his wife both run it together. They do great jobs.
Yes. They're both great defense attorneys, and they've got a lot of good insight and can explain things as they go, so it's really good.
Well, did Bob, I mean, I don't know if he has a channel or if he spoke about everything he saw there, but did he physically maybe see Richard Allen get out of a van, or did any media?
No, he did not see him not at this last hearing.
I know where you're going with this, Willie, and I get it.
I'm not going anywhere.
We
I'm
know.
just asking.
No, we know. We know.
We're
Trust me.
We're thinking about it too.
William made a good comment a while ago. He's in a prison that has 2,000 or 3,000 inmates.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He's in allegedly he's in solitaire.
You go from a county jail that has maybe 500 people to what you just said. Yeah, that's a big problem for me.
Yeah.
And Willie, your point that you haven't verbally said, I've been worried about that from the first time I saw him start to look like a zombie. That they were purposely doing something to him, because what would happen if Richard Allen would end up passing away before the trial?
He goes down as a
His
convicted
wife's going to have
child
one
killer.
hell of a lawsuit. His
Right.
wife, and she'll
There's
have
nothing
one
that
hell
can
of a
be-
lawsuit, and
That's
she
right.
better
And
get a good attorney
there's
to fight
nothing
them
that can be
But in the
assholes.
legal, but
Yeah.
in the non-civil world, he goes down as a double child killer.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's
Mhm.
the legacy that his family has to now
Yeah.
carry.
And let's be clear, we don't know if this guy did anything or not. We don't know if there were other players involved or not, just like in Kohberger. But he deserves the same rights we're demanding
Right.
for Bryan Kohberger. I want to see
Right.
the community demand the same rights for Richard Allen, because
Listen,
the
if
man hasn't
Kohberger,
even been to
if they'll
trial.
give him vegan, if they'll give Bryan Kohberger vegan freaking meals in a jail with 6 people, okay, then they can put Richard Allen in a jail with less than 2,000.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sorry,
And
prison less
you
than
can see the
2,000.
difference. I told you, Brian, he actually looks better to me since
Yeah,
he's
Yeah,
been there
he
than he
does.
did when he went in. And Richard Allen, I worry every time that we get to a hearing, or I think about it a lot. At some
Yeah.
point, we're going to get a news break that Richard Allen is no longer with us. That's what I worry about.
I mean,
So
because we
remind me,
all
how did
know
they get
innocent
from the
people.
one guy to Richard Allen?
Same moment. What's that again?
How did they get from the one guy? I can't think of his name.
So I'll try to give the quickest rundown I can, Mama. When this first happened, Richard
Mhm.
Allen told them he was there. He placed himself on the bridge, gave them the times, what he was doing, just like everybody else that was interviewed that day from the scene.
Mhm.
So then they find the bullet in between the girls, and unspent. Then they
Mhm.
look into all the Keegan Kleins and the other players, and 5 years goes by. And somehow they discover in their stack of papers, wait, who's this Richard Allen that was on the bridge that or out there that day? Let's
Mhm.
look, take a look. And then the next thing you know, because he did place himself out there, and there were a couple witnesses that described him out there, and he kind of looks like Bridge Guy. Now let's go get a
Mhm.
search warrant, and they got it. And now let's go
Wrong
look and get
place,
his
wrong
guns. They
time.
got the guns, and then there's a conflict. Yeah. Then they did a ballistics test. The prosecution sent it off. They claimed that unspent bullet would have been cycled through that gun. Bob says the defense has already ran ballistics as well, and it's conflicting with what the state says. So they
Hold on,
literally had.
you said
Y'all
ran
think
through the
Bryan
gun?
Kohberger's PCA is vague? Y'all think that PCA is vague? Go read Delphi's.
Yeah,
They don't
Did you
even have
say,
DNA.
did you
They
say,
have a bullet.
that's
did
it. An
did you say
unspent
it
bullet.
ran through the gun?
But they can't
That's what they're
prove
saying.
it.
Cycled through. No, they cannot prove it, and it was the same type of bullet law enforcement uses. And
It was an
they don't have.
unspent bullet.
Yeah,
So that's what I
it could
mean.
have.
So it's not a bullet that they can. I mean, they can match. See, here's my
Right.
question, and
Could
this
say
is a
that
big
with
question
anybody.
that I have right now: is how many guns did this guy own?
There was a couple, but there was like whatever this type of gun would that bullet would go to that type of gun, right? So,
Right. Yeah.
like I said,
What's
though,
I mean? If
Bob's
he
already
owned one
there's already
gun,
conflicting ballistic reports out there. They
I get
can't
it, but
prove, and I've watched some videos on evidence about ballistic stuff, and it's going to be hard for them to prove that bullet ever was in that gun. You got especially if it's not even spent, because you got to look at markings and tool markings and all kinds of things go into play to tell them where that bullet went from what gun, right? So
yeah.
there's a lot. They got to have a lot to prove that. But the girls weren't even shot, and they said they had to dig the bullet up. So how long was that bullet laying out there in the woods?
Exactly, and it's in the woods. I
Had to
mean,
dig it up.
we have hunting.
Yeah,
could
it was
go to
buried.
anybody's
It was
gun.
yeah.
Anybody.
didn't
It was-
Anybody could have dropped that.
And it wasn't like it was just laying there visible. Here I am, pick me up. They
Right.
it says in the document that it was buried a little bit. They had to like dig for it and kind of, and the girls
And
weren't
when
shot. They were, there was no
in the
shooting.
Deborah Collier case, they found an unspent bullet with the Deborah Collier case. Same thing. It was just laying there. It could have fallen out of somebody's pocket. It could have been laying there for 6 months.
Somebody was
6
fishing
hours.
there, fell out. Yeah.
And then you take
real-
you throw in Elvis Fields. He's a player that knows BH, and Elvis, his sisters have both come forward in legal documents and said their brother said to them, and he also said it
Mhm.
to one of the cops. What if I
Mhm.
spit on one of those victims? If I can explain it, would I still be in trouble? And
Exactly. How about
there apparently was saliva DNA found on one of those victims. But
Mhm.
it's not Richard Allen's.
Mm-mm. That's what I'm saying.
There
Like
was a
this
lot of
case,
yeah.
you guys think Delphi's bad? Go look. We're going to start looking at it a little bit deeper. I've tried to, and then things always happen, but we're going to really, really look at it along with Karen Reed's case too. Um, it needs to be shown to the world, folks, because it's insane the things that are happening. It
Yeah.
just doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
Um,
And then,
yeah,
you know what?
right.
I kind of, I do want to give a little shout out, which is weird, to Court TV that has actually been airing the stuff about the Karen Reed case, because, you know, every time like the new information that came out, I mean, he brought on 3 defense attorneys to sit there and say, like, you know, 2 of them said flat out, like, this is a cover up, like flat out.
Yeah, they
So I
did.
do, you know, I haven't seen, you know, that station act that way before for a for a
Mhm.
defense, I guess. But yeah, so I mean, if they're acting like that, I mean, and then they're
I
trying
get
to
it.
shush
I get
Turtle
it.
Boy or Turtle Guy, whatever his name is, and
Oh, Turtle Boy, yeah, he's
Mhm.
definitely advocated for her, and he's been through some shit too. So yeah, I agree.
yeah,
Real quick
Yeah,
to answer that.
and that's the thing. We have to bring this stuff to light for more eyes to get on it and hold these people accountable. When
Yes,
people aren't watching, they're not held accountable. Idaho knows we're all watching.
right,
They
and
know
that's
that.
yeah, but
these
if
other
They
two
better
cases.
damn well know it.
But if Turtle Boy was standing there screaming, "Karen Reed, you're a killer," it'd be perfectly fine. The fact that there's people saying the complete opposite, now it's an
The
issue.
opposition, yes, that's
I
the
don't like
problem,
that.
and that's why we have to do what we're doing, because these other 2 cases, they need more, in my opinion, at this point, more coverage
Yeah.
than what Idaho needs, especially Delphi, because that dude, there's something bad going on over there, guys. There is something bad going on over there. I'm telling you, and it needs to be blared all over the place.
Well,
So
yes, stealing Bob Motta's words, something stinks in Delphi.
big time, big time. And to answer that question that I had up there a few minutes ago, I'm sorry I didn't. I will be joining Jules tonight, of all trades,
Mhm.
along with Crime Sleuthing, Debbie from Crime Sleuthing on Debbie's channel, Crime Sleuthing. I think it's 8 p.m. Eastern time. Debbie's going to be having Kara as her guest. I'll be joining them then. So tune in to that channel for those of you that were interested in that. Crime
Yeah,
Sleuthing.
and we appreciate them doing it, and Jules and you guys doing that, and
Oh,
we
yeah.
all know she's gonna be treated fairly and kindly, and that's all we could ask of you guys, and I know you're gonna do it respectfully, and so I
Absolutely.
appreciate that. I appreciate it. You know how I
Absolutely.
feel about it. 'Cause I'm a mama, she's a mama. It's,
Yes.
Jules is a mama,
Yeah,
so we're good.
absolutely. I'll be surrounded by mamas. That's a
Yeah, I wish
fact.
I could figure out how to, like, you know, do what you do, Dago, because like I got a lot to say, man. I could talk all day about this shit.
It doesn't
We
take
all
long.
do, dude.
You know?
That's why I do this. That's why I give you guys a platform, because a lot of you guys don't have the ability to speak your minds.
Yeah, I
Um,
appreciate that, man. Because
you
like I
know, a
said, I
lot of
went
other
from I went from, you know, hearing what happened and saying, look, and I kind of feel bad now, you know, that there's a receipt out there that I'm saying to electrocute Bryan Kohberger because of when it came out and everything that was being said. But and then when the PCA came out, now, you know,
don't feel
and there's
bad.
nothing.
You said we did the same thing, buddy. I did it. I wanted it.
Yeah,
I
but I
told
kind
you
of like
before.
knew, you know what I mean? Like I said, I knew his mom, and like for me to be swayed like that, I feel so disgusted, you know, and that's why I feel like now the more and more that comes out that doesn't make sense. I mean, he doesn't have a voice right now, and his friends are terrified because the media are contacting them 15, 20 times a day, and they're being harassed, and they don't want to talk to anybody, you know. And I've been threatened, you know that. I've been stuff like that because of my opinions, and I came to a point where I don't give a shit. So if I do start a channel, it will be strictly for, you know, him. But I haven't, like I said, I took the 6 juror thing as they feel the same way that we all feel. So
Right.
I don't
And
feel it's
listen,
bad. I don't feel it's bad now as, you know,
to speak
voicing my
on what
opinions
you
as
just
strongly as
said,
I do.
you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do anything more than what we've all done, and that's to trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the trust in the people we're supposed to trust in, and trust in the things that we've been raised our whole lives to trust in. It's sad
Yep.
that we can't, obviously.
Mhm.
And now we're all, because again, we're all critical thinkers. And I think everybody out here, I'll say this again, I've said it before. I think we all want the same thing in the end, and that is true justice for the victims, their families, and
Yes.
all of these
Yeah.
cases. Okay,
I
Yeah.
mean, we're coming
that's
up
all.
on a year for these kids, you know, and we can't
Mhm.
lose sight of it. And at one
No.
time, I don't remember, it was a long time ago, and Jules was making a point about how many of y'all even remember these victims. And I was like, glad she said that, because I was like, you know what?
Right.
On my laptop, my screensaver is a picture of those 4 victims, and it says Justice for Idaho 4. No matter who that suspect is, I want those 4 kids to have justice.
Yes,
And I
and
don't
Exactly.
want
that's
to hear
the same
about their
thing.
past. I don't want to hear about what they might have done and who they was involved
Yeah.
with. I don't care. They're 4 young
Exactly.
people who lost their lives brutally
For no
for
reason.
whatever
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
There is
Well,
no
I just,
good,
I mean, I just
no
believe
good
in
reason
truth,
whatsoever.
and like truth to me,
Oh,
like
Jules, really? I'm glad you
is
said that, hun. Thank you. I didn't realize. I'm sorry, guys. Jules just threw me off. It's Ethan's birthday tomorrow, so let's all
wow.
remember that. Yeah.
Oh, we will definitely. One way or another. I've tried to remember all of their birthdays in a sense,
Yeah.
and that's
Kaylee's
that
is the day
isn't
before mine, so I'll never forget Kaylee's birthday.
right,
I
right.
just
And
it's
you
with
know
me
what, you
forever.
guys, that's the biggest thing right there is, and that's not just with the Idaho case. It's
Yeah.
6 years we've been waiting on something in Delphi. It's
Yeah.
Florida. We've been
And
waiting
can you
on for
imagine
years.
how those parents feel? I mean, 5 years
Right.
later, do you think they finally arrest someone, and then a year after his arrest, you're hearing all this other? Wow, you know, that's a lot,
Yeah. I mean,
and it's
think
hard
about
enough.
all.
Yeah,
Right. Think you.
it's hard enough to lose a child and to process that, but when there's an ongoing litigation about what happened,
Yes.
there's no healing until that's over. No true
No. And that.
healing.
Right. Like I said, we have 6 years on that one. We have a year on this one. We have how
Mm-hmm.
long on Ramsey? We have Summer
Yeah.
Wells still. We have Rodney that we're not happy with. Deborah Collier's case we're not happy. There's so many of these cases that need the real attention and not wrong words, that we want the real truth and justice on is what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And none of us are going to rest easy until we get it on all of them. Period.
Well, that's how I look at
Okay?
it, because I think this would push me, Dago, to really bring the truth out. If people really want the truth of both sides, then it would push me to have Bryan's childhood friends on. It would push me to, show the truth that nobody really wants to see. And I know it's going to come with some hate, but at least the truth will be out there. And, I don't
Well,
want to be labeled as some one-sided, channel, but I have the ability. I don't have the ability to contribute to other cases because I don't really know true crime too well. But with Bryan's case, I'm able to provide information that will be the truth that is not out there right now. And I don't know how that works with, outside sources seeing that, his childhood friends talking about him and they get subpoenaed or they get gagged or whatever like that. And I don't want that stuff to happen. So I don't know how all that works yet,
Well,
They won't.
and
They
if
would
they,
have been.
okay, it won't happen because they're not under a gag order if they're not related to the case. If they're not on a witness list, they're not under a gag order. You can speak freely about the friend you knew all you want to, right?
Well, no, he's not it's not. I'm talking about people that were like.
Well,
can
and then
too.
that's where I'm going to
They
say,
can too.
if there is anybody out there that genuinely wants to talk about Bryan Kohberger's personality, whatever, they have a platform to safely come do so.
Bring it
There will
here.
be
Bring it
haters.
here.
There will be haters, but you have to ignore them.
We'll deal with
That's
that
just
part of it.
that's
We have.
yeah, that's just part of it.
Yeah, well, no,
I hate
I'm
to
not.
say
Like I
it.
said, I can take it. It's I don't want
No,
that.
listen.
Like,
Yeah,
I don't
you
want
don't
them
want to
being
subject
attacked.
them. Yeah, you don't want to
Yes,
subject
exactly.
anybody to attacks. I get it,
Yeah.
and I totally understand what you're saying.
If you bring them here, Willie, is what I'm saying. If you want to bring them here to speak out, we will handle anything in the chat. Nobody's going to
Yeah,
attack them. It will be dealt with right on top of that. That's up to
Okay.
whatever they
Yeah,
want.
because like I said, I
definitely.
know, the one person that I really want to bring back, because he was kind of, if you watch his interview, he was cut off right in the middle of it once he started getting into Bryan, is Rich Pasqua. And he's,
Yeah.
me and him hung out probably hundreds of times when we were kids, and he was really good friends with Bryan. And, if you watch his interview, he speaks about, everything. But as soon as he started
love
going
it.
into his character, he was cut off. And I spoke to him directly, and he was pissed about that. So
Are
yeah,
you talking about the guy on the interview in one of the show? Who are you speaking
Fox.
about?
He was on Fox. Rich Pasquale, long hair.
Okay.
He
Yeah,
was
yeah,
on
yeah.
Fox.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think I sent it to Ego.
Let him know that he would have full platform to speak his full mind. Nobody in here is going to go after him. That's a promise. I already know that.
Yeah.
And if anybody were to pop in chat to say something, they would be nixed immediately. So he would be protected in here. He could say whatever he needs to say, and that's that. And then he could move on. That's all he'd have to do. So
Okay. Yeah. I just, like I said, and like I said, I'm not worried. I'm not worried about here because I wouldn't bring it up if I was. It's other channels taking the video, chopping it, and then people, slandering and going after.
Well, unfortunately, that's going to happen. There's nothing you can do to stop that. So you got to make your decision.
But if they take my video without my permission, I have the ability to deal with that. So that's something else that can be handled too.
Yeah, Jules, that's right. He would be a good person to start with. Yep, I agree wholeheartedly.
Yes, he was already.
That's what I mean. He already got. Yeah. And then the one that I really want to bring on is the one that inspired Bryan to make that little rap that he made and stuff like that, because that's somebody that nobody knows about. And I know, I want to ask him a lot of information, but I haven't. But I did ask him if he was okay with, coming up somewhere that I trust and, talk about it. And he said he was. He's been a little busy with, he's on tour with concerts and stuff. But again, I just think it would be good for everybody just to hear it. I mean, it's information that
I agree.
It's not to sway anybody. It's just
it's a side of things that hasn't been seen or heard.
Exactly.
It's another truth.
It's giving him a voice that you guys feel is necessary, and I totally understand it. I'm not just here for the anti-Kohberger rhetoric. I don't like rhetoric, period. I don't care where it comes from. I don't like it. So I can think what I want to think based on what I'm seeing evidentiary-wise, but I'm more than willing to sit down and hear someone tell me about Bryan Kohberger. I'm a people watcher. I love figuring out people. So I'm very interested to know more about him as a person. Right? It'll help me.
Have not seen anything but negative.
Yeah.
Nothing but negative about Bryan. There's got to be another side to it, and they have not allowed for that, and that is a problem. Okay, because that, in a sense, will show us who he is as a person based on his life experiences. We're not allowed to see that at all, and I don't like that.
Well, I've had to wonder: are people afraid to speak out on what to say? Come out and be nice and say what they like your guest now, willing to come out and say things because of the scrutiny that may come along with it. Just like he's saying he's worried about his friends being put through if they come forward and speak openly.
Yes.
So you have to, and that's where you go back to the integrity and how you handle things, because you handle it badly, it's going to go badly.
Right. That's fact. I think this is a good platform for that, because the community in here alone is open. We have the ability to be open to both sides of things and to be able to be respectful as well. So you let me know what you want to do, Willie. I'm down for it. You know that you have the platform here. Just let me know.
Okay. Yeah. Like I said, I'm gonna talk to him and figure something out, because like I said, it's just I just want it to be uncensored, where it's not where he starts going in, somebody gets cut off like they did on Fox. It's somewhere where he can.
That's not gonna happen.
No, I know that. I'm just saying that's why I was kind of saying earlier, where I think that social media has a leg up on the media because of that reason. Because this can happen, and people from Japan and over United States all the way down to South America, we can all come together on one platform like this, and
we have a broad reach. We have a broad reach.
You can't do that anywhere else. So
that's the other thing, is this case is known worldwide. Okay, I have people in here from Thailand, Japan, China, Norway, whatever the hell that is. The Netherlands, Germany. I mean, they're everywhere. Australia, they watch it and they want it. They all want to know. Everybody wants to know every side to this. So a different perspective towards the person that is accused of this would be an amazing scenario to be able to go through and to see. So I think that would be great. If you can put something together with that, you just let me know. I think you already have my number.
Yeah, no, I got you now. I was just waiting to get to that point where it was just very, very evident to me where it needs to happen because it all
Yeah.
just doesn't add up, you
I
know.
agree.
And
I do agree. Like I
from what
said,
I've
you let
seen
me know,
Casey
do
Arnold
your thing,
say and
and
stuff,
we will go forward from there, my friend. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
but
yeah, that's we need other voices. That's a fact. Good point, Mr. Girl. All right, guys. Thank you, Denmark. I couldn't think of what it was, and the UK, of course. Yes.
Yep.
I think that's probably going to do it for today. It's been great listening to you guys and hearing everything. It's a great panel as always.
great
I love
conversation.
having Salty, Willie, always a pleasure. Eddie, always. And it is Friday, folks. So I may be live tonight. I don't know. I might do something a little extra special tonight. We'll see.
You going live on?
Oh shit, that's right. Yeah. After that, see how long
Yeah, I
that
was
goes.
about to say.
I'm like,
Keep
wait
it,
a minute.
keep it
that,
straight, Mama, because I was thinking, what are you talking about, Dago?
I try.
You are going live tonight, dude. You already are.
I am. She'll call me sometimes like, hey, what time are you? Oh shit, bye. And that's what it is, you know.
I'm like,
It'll
it's
remind
been
me
2
immediately.
hours.
All right,
Yeah.
guys. Well, have a great day. God bless you guys, and I'll see you guys later.
All right, buddy.
Yeah, we're
Thanks
looking
again.
forward to the live tonight, guys. I know you guys will do a great job with Kara.
Absolutely.
See you
Thank
guys.
you
See
so
you,
very
Chad.
much. Take care,
Thank
buddy.
you, guys. Have a good day.
Bye,
You too,
guys.
Salty. Thank you, hon. Yes, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, folks. 7 o'clock Central. Again, this is on Crime Sleuthing's channel. Jules, I'll be joining her and Jules. 8 o'clock my time, I should say, which is Eastern Standard. And then 7 o'clock Central. I don't know. Is that what Texas is? Central?
I don't know.
I think. No, they're more than an hour away from different than we are, aren't they?
I have a hard time remembering ours. So,
Because Idaho is what, 3 to 4 hours difference.
well, it depends on where you're at in Idaho. Like Molly's only 2 hours behind us.
Jules said yes. Okay, that's weird. Gotcha.
But if you're on the
All
other
right,
side
yes.
of Idaho, then it's 3 hours.
Yep. All right. I'll see you tonight, Jules. Thank you for jumping in today, hon. I appreciate it. So I hope I didn't distract you too much from work. No, it will be on Crime Sleuthing's channel. If we can put her link in the chat real quick, guys, please. I'd appreciate that. I will be joining. Jules will be joining her, and I will be joining them. At
I will be laying in my bed watching.
not Kent said, not so fast. Not so fast. Yeah, it'll be 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 7 p.m. Central Time. I don't know the other time zones to give you. Okay, Brandy, so we're in the same time zone for you. Got you for that. Thank you, guys. I hope you enjoyed the panel today. And I hope you guys, 5 o'clock Pacific. There it is. Thank you, Ray. 5 o'clock Pacific time, folks. And that's what Moscow's on. Okay. And there's one other, what is it, Mountain Time? I don't even know what that one is, but either way, I'm looking forward to it.
6 Mountain and 5 Pacific.
5 Pacific, 6 Mountain, 7 Central, and 8 Eastern. There we go.
Hey, did we get them all?
I think we got them all. There we go. Yep. Depending on how long that goes. So if it's only an hour, then I may go after the fact myself. If it is longer than that, then you guys might see me tomorrow sometime. We'll see. Either way, I am
her
rolling.
channel up there. I don't think we did.
Yeah. Drop Debbie's channel, please, guys. Crime Sleuthing is the name of the channel, and let's put the link out for us if we could. And again, guys, I appreciate you guys being here today. We had well over 200 and some people in here all day. I was appreciative.
Come on, William.
William Tardy, what? Oh my God, bro! Give me a break. we'll get back to that soon. I promise. I don't know what Hawaii's time zone is actually. What is it? Is it Mountain? No.
I have no idea.
Mountain time is Montana. I don't know what Hawaii is. You're okay, brother. Just teasing you. Again, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. As always, it's always a pleasure to be able to hang with you guys, do what we do. I'm super excited we had Mama here. I'm sure she was probably bored half the time. But thank you for being here with us all day, Mama Bear. I appreciate it. I thought it was a wonderful conversation today.
Yeah.
I like being able to have these conversations where we can all disagree about some things, agree about a lot of things, and walk away at the end as good friends, because that's the important thing to me. I love you guys to death. I appreciate you guys more than you know. Anybody that donated anything towards the channel today, God bless you all. Thank you so very much for that. Are you ready for bed now? I see the little. Well, it's almost 5 o'clock. Yeah. So, once again, mods, you guys did a great today. As always, I love you guys to death. Don't forget to love yourselves and love each other, folks. We love you guys 1,000,000%. And I will see you guys here just in a few hours. Have a great rest of your day, folks. Bye-bye, everybody.
Have a good night, guys. I'll probably see you somewhere along the weekend.
You'll jump in there later a little bit. I know you will.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
You always do. Sneak in with your little things and say, here I am.
Yep. Bye.
Have a great
Bye,
night,
guys.
guys.
Have a great weekend.
Goodbye.